Welcome to Daredevil in the Details, a show that explores and dotes on the philosophy and themes of Netflix's Daredevil, a digression collection brought to you by A Method to the Madness and ZeroIndent. I'm author DC McNeil, and I'm joined, as always, by Patrick from A Method to the Madness. This week, Pat, I'm in church, okay? I'm not religious, but I'm going to mass anyway, and I'm feeling a type of way about it. Boy, howdy, aren't I?
All right, that's good. As long as you don't commit any murders, I'd say, you've done better than the people in this episode.
Okay. There are a lot of... listen, this is a harrowing episode. A quick content disclaimer at the top. This episode will contain discussion of drug abuse and domestic violence, so if those are things you'd rather not hear about for whatever reason, please use the time codes and your own caution to move around and navigate in the episode if you'd rather not hear about those. But I want to talk about two really good things before we start the episode, because these are two so we're talking about Daredevil Season 3, Episode 9 and 10. Two very harrowing episodes of television. The plot goes into overdrive and then everything goes bad. So I wanted to talk about some good stuff first. First good thing is a good thing about Daredevil, and the second good thing is a good thing about me. That's happened. It's not... You'll see what I'm saying. The first good thing is that we finally have confirmation that the retooling of Daredevil Born Again is picking up the continuity of Netflix's Daredevil.
I thought that was confirmed ages ago.
But we've now seen... There are now leaked set photos of the Daredevil suit that matches the one we saw in Echo. There are leaked set photos of Foggy with a ginger beard.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
There's leaked set photos of a character in a purple costume whose name I don't know if I want to say because it might spoil how the season ends. But suffice to say, a character gets surgery at the end of this season who goes on to wear a purple costume, and he's there.
That's the surgery. He gets it sewn right into his skin. Pretty gruesome. Pretty gory.
Yeah, it could be vibranium. Who's to say? Going on some Wolverine shit, potentially. That's very exciting.
Well, that's the law of the rhino, isn't it?
That's correct. Yes,
yeah. See, I'm a nerd. I know these things.
Yeah. Flowers for Algernon, flowers for rhino. Yes, that's good. And they're actually filming, so that's a really good sign. They have, it seems like, ditched everything they made before. So it's definitely going to be a black hole of money as far as like being profitable, but it might maybe be good. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it might.
in 4 years when we come back for our coverage when they finish it.
Yeah.
The other good thing is that, so my depression's been pretty bad lately, and I looked in the mirror this morning and like my beard had gotten out of control, my hair was all over the place, and I went to the barber, and I feel like I'm a sheep that's been sheared. I feel the wool, the wool is gone, and I feel free to enter autumn from the summer. Okay.
Yeah, you're looking slick, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling. I was out the barber chair at 4 p.m. Like, I'm direct from the barber. I came back. I touched up. I squared off the beard. Had a shower. I'm feeling fresh. I'm feeling good. I'm off to Perth tomorrow. We've been both traveling a lot as well. Very rare for us as two perpetually poor boys. That's been pretty fun too. So, I'm in a good mood. And that's where the punchiness has come from, I think, is that like I had a very social day. Okay, I went into work and socialized. I went to my barber and I caught up with him and we socialized. I met his son. I met his trainee. Like I've been talking to people all day, which is very rare for me. It's usually just my team at work. And so I feel like what's happened is all this energy that I would usually expend on the podcast has been expended socializing elsewhere. And so now I'm trying to bring the heat.
It reminded you that there's stuff outside work and podcasting.
Yeah, it's like it's like for a perpetual hermit, it's sort of what's the expression? It's like a circuit breaker. It's like a reset.
Yeah, no, yeah. I feel you. I feel you. Yeah.
And so I'm in that vibe. I'm feeling it. You just got back. Would you get back today or yesterday?
Yesterday.
Fresh off the plane. So, these boys are jet setting. And unfortunately, no one in this show is jet setting. They're all stuck in Hell's Kitchen under the weight of the oppressive presence of Wilson Fisk. We are talking about episode 9 and episode 10. Let's start, which is episodes 35 and 36. Let us start with episode 9, Revelations. So aptly titled. What a delicious title. Written by Eric Olesen and Sam Ernst. This was directed by Jennifer Lynch. Again, a new name for us. Pat, could we please hear the deeply upsetting summary of what happens in this episode of television, please?
Okay, I kind of forgot myself, so I'm curious.
Production note, actually, yeah. This has been a weird... Because we've been traveling. This is sort of... I think this is the latest after we both watched them that we've recorded, right? Like, this is about 6 days late.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I watched it. I watched it only a few days ago, but a lot has happened in that few days, and I feel like, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
It's going to wash over me again. Okay. Matt confronts Father Lantom, demanding to know why Lantom...
Line 1, let me fix it. Go again.
Lanto,
no one will
Lanto
know. I'll fix it in the edit.
Matt confronts Father Lantom, demanding to know why Lantom lied about Matt's mother, Sister Maggie. In a flashback, we experience Lantom's explanation of Maggie's postpartum depression and return to the church. Embittered by the specter of her past, Matt breaks into Fogwell's gym and has an internal dialogue with his father. Foggy's speech at Hell's Kitchen Club has gone viral. Unfortunately for Foggy, Manning paints the Fogwells into a corner. If Foggy doesn't beg off Fisk, his brother and parents will go to prison. Nadeem brings an officer of conduct to SAC Hadley's home. There, on tape, he admits to his knowledge of Fisk's conspiracy. Hadley snatches up Ray's gun and blows a hole through the officer of conduct, screaming for Ray to put the gun down. In an agonizing moment of revelation, the blackmail is caught on tape. Nadeem now works for Fisk. Dex is reinstated and gleefully rounds up a series of criminals to forge a trap for Daredevil. Ray, Dex, SAC Hadley, and Fisk head to a restaurant, awaiting Daredevil's arrival. Elsewhere, Karen visits Maggie. They have a charged exchange, and Maggie agrees to hide Karen. Clarified with purpose, Matt leaves the gym, burning with desire to kill Fisk. But rather than spring the trap, Matt breaks into Fisk's penthouse, only to learn that Fisk intends to kill Karen. Just as Matt goes to escape, Fisk returns home. Oh, that's juicy.
What a delightfully nefarious episode of TV this is.
Yeah, shit does go so wrong. I think it's what I like about I feel like this is what I may have said this in our first season coverage, but this show has a really excellent way of escalation. Some shows, things go wrong, but there's always some sort of positive valence that goes along with it. Like that's a narrative theory thing, right? You try to end a scene or a sequence with ambivalent values. Like you want positives and negatives, and you want this sort of like undescribable feeling of momentum and change in a story. Whereas I feel like in Daredevil, it often, especially later on in the seasons, it becomes like double negative endings.
Yeah,
to a lot of the scenarios. Yeah,
and well, that's so. I mean, contemporary theorist Sean Coyne, who we all have completely mixed feelings about. He's the one that kind of tried to crystallize that as a framework, which is scenes start either positive or negative, and they end the opposite, or they start that way and then end double positive or double negative. And that's what creates momentum in a narrative. And then what creates satisfaction from momentum is the ultimatum or the crisis point, which is where the climax of a scene, a story, a chapter, season, whatever it is, occurs where two things happen. A protagonist is they have to confront the best of bad choices, where it doesn't matter what they do. Similar to what Lantom pitches to us here as ideology, which is you're choosing between a handful of evils, none of them are good options, or irreconcilable goods, where every choice is equally good and it's about the opportunity cost of picking one of those good things. And
Mm-hmm.
tragedies rely on the best of bad choices, and comedies and adventure stories and a lot of science fantasy relies on irreconcilable goods, where if you think about the way Lord of the Rings ends, Sam and Frodo have two choices in front of them. They can either stay in the Shire or they can go to the Grey Haven with the elves. And for Sam, because he isn't so damaged by carrying the ring, he's able to remain, right? He's able to go back to the Shire, build a life with this girl that he's in love with. But Frodo is for him, that good is fundamentally irreconcilable with his experience to get there. And that's where the irreconcilable part comes from. It isn't just about the good choices, it's about the nature of the place that takes you there, right? And I think you're right. I think you talked a lot in season 2 about Daredevil as a show, as a vehicle, finding ways to constantly put its characters in peril, both like physically and morally. And that, I think, is the big swing that these 2 episodes are making. Is I was expecting, if I'm being completely honest, because these 2 episodes, we get this episode, which is in the present, and then the next episode is Flashback. I was really expecting to dislike the next episode. But I think because of how well this episode places its characters in jeopardy, that episode hit so hard for me. Like, this episode is such a good setup for what happens next. And this escalation to the point where, like, so after these 2 episodes, we have 3 episodes left of the season. And I finished this viewing session with this feeling of, like, how is there more stuff? Like, it feels like everything is about to blow up, right?
Yeah.
It's so good, Pat. But yes, I completely agree. I was geeking watching these episodes, for real.
Yeah. That is a good way of putting it. Like, it just seems like, and the first season does this as well, where it's looks like it's very clearly building to a way out for the characters. They have a solution and they're putting it in action, and then it's their only solution, and then it goes kaput, and you're like, it's doubly bad because not only are they in a bad place, but the one hope that they had is also just
they played all their cards, right?
Yeah.
They've got no hand left. All right, let's break it down then. So this episode is we start with what I think is this show does such good in a video game. We call it environmental storytelling, but I guess we don't really have like an equivalent word for it other than set design. But we open the episode with Father Lantom hustling some dude at pool. It's great. And Matt sort of bails up to him and confronts him. But the fact that this dude is like, "You hustling me, granddad? Like, what the fuck, man?" And it's such a believable Lantom thing to do, which is like to go to pool halls and to drink, because that's the only vice you're allowed as a father in the Catholic Church. And to hustle dudes at pool and just be like an absolute pool shark. It's such a good character note.
But as far as that goes on the morality chart, it's acceptable for, it's like hustling. He's just hiding the fact that he's good at pool, right? And he's like winning fair and square, kind of. So I like it's a really fitting character.
He's chaotic neutral, bro. Like, he's not lawful good in the way that you expect a priest to be,
Well, yeah, he's not bound by the strict attitudes of like normal priests, right? He's a bit of a renegade priest, as we have come to know him. And
he's far more theologian than theologist, if you will.
Yeah, it's just such a fitting like bit of characterization,
especially for this conversation to take place here while he's drinking a whiskey. So this is the confrontation. So for those playing along at home, last episode, the cliffhanger ending, the kind of Netflix style like stinger that makes you want to keep binge watching, is Maggie accidentally reveals to Matt that she is Matt's father. I think she's praying, perhaps.
She's Matt's mother.
What did I say?
Matt's father.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The energy's wrong today. The energy's wrong today. She's Matt's mother. And he only hears this because of his super hearing, which
Yeah.
I love. And I just want to foreground this for the next episode. I love that this revelation is a setup, it's a reminder for the payoff next episode of the super hearing whisper communication that we had in season 2. And I'll explain it when we get there.
Yeah.
It's these 2 episodes are genius structural work. And I will labor on it when we get there, and I will pay it its dues. But this conversation is Matt confronting Lantom, and Matt says, "You saw me struggling, and you chose to hide the one thing that could have changed everything for me. Please, Father, help me understand why you would do that." And then Lantom deflects, and he says, "I prayed for Maggie to find it in herself to tell you years ago. Matt, she couldn't find it in herself to walk 9 blocks to visit me as a kid or comfort me when my father was murdered. When I knew that I was alone in this world." And this is some of the Job story, I think, coming back to haunt us a little bit as well, right? Lantom kind of, this revelation is Matt finally realizing that he was the ultimate victim the whole time, the ultimate joke, right? Like, he had this faith and he stood by this. And, like, it comes to naught. That, like, his fate was placed in the wrong thing. He isn't Job. Like, there's a version of this story where you can imagine he's like, well, Father, I understand. But Matt, like, because he's so morally dubious, he's so morally challenged at this point, and he's lost all faith in people that, like, he can't get there. He can't get to that place of forgiveness. This is like the ultimate. In some ways, it's the ultimate betrayal, right? This Lantom is his replacement father figure, right? Like, I don't think that's sort of a salacious opinion. Like, the show frames him like that, or at least he's the guy that Matt goes to for fatherly style advice in some way. And to realize that he betrayed him, and that he could have given Matt, that he had the ability to give Matt a sense of belonging, a sense of family, the thing that Matt has lacked the whole time, you know, brilliantly, ironically juxtaposed against the fact that Matt has walked away from Karen and Foggy, his found family.
And I think there's another layer of irony where his take on the Job story is that despite God raining punishment down on Job, he thinks what Job should have done is just not worry about God and just done his own thing. And meanwhile, in this context, he's letting his emotions completely be ruled by this new context that Father Lantom kept this information from him, when really, if he, you know, took his own advice, he should just sort of take a wider look at, you know, the context of this circumstance, and realize that, you know, realize what Father Lantom is thinking, which is that, you know, he didn't have a choice. It wasn't his choice. It was Maggie's choice. I don't know. He's willfully lacking an agency that he is scrutinizing Job for, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think the added layer to that is that when we talk about this story being preoccupied with the framework of the life of the saints, right? Which is like these larger than life figures that we kind of paint as people that suffer and do these grand gestural kind of emblematic things in kind of a context of morality, right? When Lantom says, you know, when you grow up without parents like you did, Matt, you know, you stop viewing them as people.
You don't come to see them as people.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the added layer here is that Matt is treating his past and these people in his past that are absent as that kind of saintly figure who their life is these big melodramatic sweeps of grandeur and tragedy and comedy, rather than like a human being that exists in a time and place, right? He's viewing them in the same way that we talk about people that we have not so much disciplinary overlap with in the media crit space, but people who are looking for like a turnkey for a story. we talked about this a lot in season 2 of people looking to solve text. Matt is sort of, this revelation for Matt solves in a bad way the story of his life. It's sort of like it reinforces that he is alone completely and that he is the martyr that must do this thing. Like it sort of it redoubles that belief in him, I think.
And from Matt's perspective, though, it's like you can see why he would think that, because his disposition as a major drama queen is sort of justified because his life is pretty dramatic. Like it's like an epic,
Yeah, right. But that does something to your psychology, right? And that's what we're seeing here. Is it pushes you into the extremes of behavior, which is so well observed, I think. And then the kind of the brilliant stroke of this show that I want to get your opinion on this, because I think it's brilliant, but I don't think I would have done it in my show. But I want to articulate why I appreciate what it's doing. So, as Lantom sits down to explain what happened with Sister Maggie, we get a flashback to Maggie as about to take her vows, right? She meets Jack at a boxing match, and they have a relationship that we see through very brief montage and, crucially, very little dialogue. There's a lot of silence and lingering shots and melancholy, just in general. And she's pregnant and she has Matt, and she's suffering from pretty severe postpartum depression, which obviously at the time, not a lot was known about. She kind of gets it into her head that, like, it's all to do with sin and this, that, and the third thing, not realizing it's just chemicals, right? And the flashback itself it's really compellingly shot. The piece I can't decide in my mind, which is what I'd like to hear your thoughts on, is whether you think this is more important, valuable, essential than the slow conversation between Lantom and Matt where he explains this to Matt. The ways in which he chooses his words to explain this, the ways in which he chooses to frame this to Matt, right? By cutting away to the flashback, we avoid the necessity of hearing Lantom's dialogue itself, and so we focus instead on the content rather than the relationship between Matt and Lantom. I'm curious for you, what does that do, or where does it work, or where doesn't it work?
On the one hand, if you stayed with Matt and Father Lantom, you could have this psyche character charged poetic conversation where you have to fill in so many blanks, and it's it would probably be what's in your head would be a lot better than what you see in this flashback. On the other hand, I think the purpose of this flashback, which I kind of think is the same purpose in the next episode with Karen's flashback, is not is second giving you the information of the events that happen, is second to putting you in the shoes of that subject and giving you an emotionality to latch on to. Giving pathos to the characters, essentially. And I think that is what it accomplishes, because at the end of this episode, he leaves and you get a scene of Maggie sort of crying over his bed, and I think that's much more impactful when you see these flashbacks of her. Yeah,
there's something like truly existentially horrifying about postpartum depression, right? Like seeing it acted in this way and with such. It's very simple. They're very short shots. It's her. She's sitting there just with this like almost catatonic expression as the baby cries and Jack comes into the apartment, right? There is something. It's a particular kind of heartbreak that is watching someone suffer and they have no tool, no option, no behavioral apparatus to escape that suffering, and to know that it's affecting someone else, and to know that it's not their fault, but to know also that they probably are blaming themselves. It is like it is such a heartbreaking thing that happens to people, and the ways in which it endears you to Maggie is the great tragedy of Maggie's life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the worst part is what we learn later is that like they didn't have a word for it then. They didn't know what it was. And so she internalizes all of that and she blames herself completely. And that is what prevents her, we have to assume from just like an internal psychology perspective, that is what this, that's why she can't tell him. Because telling him means admitting that she thinks it's her fault that she was feeling this way. And it's that guilt, and we talked a lot in season 1 about Catholics and guilt and things like that, and the guilt playing a huge role in the church. And like, yeah, it makes sense that would become kind of utilized, if you like, to redouble her faith and push her back into the church, because it's a community that's safe in some ways, and to regalvanize that sense of like telling him would only make things worse,
telling him would convince her that, or telling him would make real her trauma. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yeah, it's that thing of, if you say it, it's like addicts, right? If you say it out loud, it becomes real.
Yeah. Okay, I get that. Yeah, and it is the traumatic cornerstone of her character. Yeah, and like everything, in the last however old Matt is, has been driven by this trauma. So that's a perfectly understandable human reaction.
Yeah, this has been eating at her for like 32-ish years, right?
Yeah.
And that's a third of your life if you're lucky. That's a huge point. And also that's a third of your life starting at a formative part of your life. The first man you've ever met and potentially the first person you've had a romantic relationship with, you have a child with. That's like, the weight of that is so well communicated, so effortlessly. Not effortlessly from the show's perspective. I imagine this took a great deal of doing to find the right balance of these things in the edit and the pacing and the sound design and the music and the acting and the directing and everything that goes into television, and then just getting lucky and getting the magic and all of those things. But it feels so effortlessly seamless that when you finish the scene, all you feel is devastation, made worse by the fact that Matt's conclusion about this is that Lantom lying to Matt about this sort of retrospectively invalidates all of the conversations and lectures and seminars and philosophical debates. Like, in his mind, which is at the very edgelord take, right? Which is like, well, if you lied about this, then the rest of it's garbage. It's that kind of reactive space, which makes sense, because it's like, that's got to be. I think it's Maggie that says it later on, which is like, she's like, yeah, you should hate me too. I scarred your friend for life. Like, yeah. Matt is in a place where he's not reacting to things normally, and even he seems to know that, which we'll get to when we get to the gym. But yeah, I think it's really affecting and powerful. I just also would like to know what that conversation looked like, what Lantom explaining it looked like. I think for me that would also be a really interesting. And here's where you get stuck with television as a medium, right? If you had Lantom's voiceover over the top of the montage, you'd be in Blade Runner cinematic release territory. Right?
See, I was thinking about that, and I don't know. I think it maybe could have worked if you chose the right kind of visual shots for the flashback. If you made them, if you made the shots detailed, visually, if you packed a lot of emotion as well as information into into a few select shots. If you chose the right music, if Lantom said the right lines, I don't know. I kind of think it would maybe have worked better.
I think it would if Lantom talked around it and he was telling it from his perspective,
Yeah.
where he's saying a line that doesn't match directly what's on screen.
Yeah, that's an interesting take.
He could say something like, as a young girl, Maggie was always this type of way, and then you'd see a shot that wasn't related to that you would infer meaning on top. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like she was pious and dutiful, and then it's a shot of her at the boxing match or something. Yeah.
Or the day that she told us she wasn't coming back, and then it's her sitting staring blankly and the kid crying.
Yeah.
That kind of pairing of like it's like the dramatic irony where we know what happens, and so how by having Father Lantom talk past it lets us place our kind of emotional perspective between those two things, where we know what happened and we know where he's talking to, right? And so we can triangulate.
And then if he did go that route, I think throughout the episode you could have flashbacks from the perspective of Sister Maggie herself. Yeah. Speaking of though, like, how effective this montage was at like being seamless and stuff, that I don't know how I feel about his dad being played by the same actor instead of a younger actor.
In my notes, I have written down, we get a flashback to young Sister Maggie watching Battling Jack box. Part of me wonders if they should have recast a younger Jack, as their age gap is so obviously visible.
Like, I get it from a production standpoint. You have to cast someone new. You have to go through auditions.
They needed to, though, because it wasn't till she had the habit off, and they were in. There's that one shot of them in the kitchen, and she's in normal clothing. That it finally didn't feel creepy. But I couldn't shake. I couldn't because he looks 45.
I know, it's weird. It's really weird. And if in a perfect world they would have, in my perfect world, they would have, cast a younger version for that entire flashback, and then when Matt's talking to his dad, it goes back to the original actor. Yeah.
If Charlie Cox had a brother, that's who you would have cast. It is. I do really want to like not walk past that. As much as this is incredibly affecting and really well done, it is really distracting, the age difference, especially the first few. I think after the reshoots, which you can clearly tell happen, he looks a bit younger because they've brushed his hair back and they've shaved him a bit. But very much so, that first shot of the boxing ring, it looks like a 45-year-old man hitting on like a 18-year-old.
Yes, it does.
Which well could be what happened, right?
Yeah, I know, right?
That is also that could well be what the show is reaching for, but it's not what it's not what these shots are about.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely had the same thought. I just thought we should talk about the scene properly, and they'd be like, that do be creepy.
That's why I was saving it for the end.
Yeah. Okay, the next thing that happens is Nadeem brings an internal investigator to Hadley's house, SAC Hadley, and I want to really emphasize the set design and the world building of this season in a way that we haven't really needed to dwell on previously, because it's always been grimy streets. It's always been the city. We're finally in the suburbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go into Hadley's house, and she sort of has, there's clearly renovations going on, but she has up plastic sheeting everywhere and, masking tape on window frames, things like that. And my brain went, I don't know where this goes, but it's not going somewhere good.
I've seen The Departed. I know what this means.
I understand how cinema is. And so, do you want to set this scene up for us, Pat? Why has he brought us here?
So, there's what do you call that? Like clear top? I don't know. Protective film on everything in the kitchen.
It's like a painter's plastic or like a construction sheeting or something. I don't know what you call it. And
that's what Hadley says is, they said the renovators said they would be done months ago. Neither of them know why Ray has brought them here in secrecy. The main officer dude presses record on a tape recorder, places it on the table. He says, "All right, what have you brought us here for?" And then Nadeem reveals that he suspects Fisk is involved in a criminal conspiracy where he's using the FBI as his personal hitmen, which is exactly what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
so she she goes, "I have to place you on administrative leave, right?"
Yeah.
And so he puts his piece on the table.
Yeah. And then he has this really noble moment where he's like, this, for the record, this happened on my watch. I'm willing to accept all responsibilities.
Well,
bang.
He even says, as you said that, my neighbor dropped something in their apartment that scared the shit out of me. They dropped it sounded like a colander or something. He even says this happened on my watch, and SAC Hadley did nothing wrong. Like, he's even protecting his boss in this moment. And
he's such a noble dude.
And then she grabs his piece, shoots the dude in the throat, and then in the head, and then she goes, "Ray, put down," she screams, "Ray, put down the gun," and then presses stop recording.
Yes. And then she goes, "God damn it, Ray." And then it's revealed that she is one of Fisk's goons. She's under the control of Wilson Fisk, and we don't know why at this point. It's just meant to be a shocking moment, but
and it is. You know how earlier on I was like, man, I don't know, something up with Hadley.
Yeah, I was holding my tongue. I was like, oh.
I was like, I don't know what this. The thing that's so shocking about the way this is done in the show is that this happens, and you go, that has to be the worst thing that could happen to Ray today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then his day just gets not only does his day get infinitely worse, but every revelation we have from here forward makes the goal of stopping Fisk seem even more impossible.
They've picked up the goalpost and just driven it a few kilometers that way.
It's in the next town over, and we thought that we thought we were gonna get a touchdown next episode, and it's like, nah, brother, you have to find a bus or something. You got to get an Uber, man, and your accounts have been frozen. I don't know how. This crazy. When I said that things become perilous, it's difficult to express until we get to next episode how brilliantly this show takes the knife and just keeps twisting it and being like, "Oh, you thought you knew how evil Fisk was? Fuck you, nerd." It's so good.
Okay, Ray. You've got our attention.
What's this about?
There's no good way for me to say this. But I believe Wilson Fisk is currently engaged in a criminal conspiracy and has manipulated the Bureau into becoming his unwitting accomplice. I also have reason to believe that Fisk has corrupted an agent on his detail.
Who?
Dex.
You're referring to Special Agent Ben Poindexter?
Yes, sir. And as crazy as it sounds, I think Poindexter may have perpetrated the attack at the Bulletin.
What the hell are you talking about? Why would you think that?
Because while I was pursuing those suspicions yesterday, Dex shot me.
Jesus Christ.
Sir, OPR needs to start an internal investigation into Fisk, into Poindexter, into all of it. And for the record, this is on my watch. I personally ran Fisk's detail. SAC Hadley did everything by the book, and this shouldn't fall on her. I take full responsibility.
Ray, I'm sorry, but I'm placing you on administrative leave, effective immediately.
I understand. I won't cooperate fully. So, what do we do next?
First, we call you an ambulance.
Ray, put down the gun, please. Damn you, Ray. You bring this into my house, my home. Sit down. Sit.
Well, it is a bit later, but I like the fact that this wasn't a spur of the moment thing. This was calculated years in advance.
to the oh my god, yeah. When we get there, we get there. But it's like this has been, and it's so sinister too because it's like they made Ray for a mark, right? Like and that. Oh, because he's a Boy Scout. And it's like, it's that Boy Scout mentality. That thing that his wife loves, that thing that his son looks up to, makes him a mark for Fisk, right? The good people are marks for Fisk. Foggy is a mark for Fisk. Karen is a mark for Fisk, right? It's only Daredevil. It's only Matt who is the devil, who can't be a mark because he's almost willing to get his hands bloodier, right? And I love the structural maneuver of going. And the best part about this, I want to let me put a pin in that, but I will talk about this part about it, which is like the people involved that are Fisk's goons and the structural way that kind of, or I guess not structural, but the schematic way that proves out, and where Dex lands in that is some of the most brilliant toe curling writing I've come across in a really long time. Yeah. And I want to retract every concern I had so far. I don't know where the show goes, Pat. There's 3 episodes left. I want to retract every concern I had about this being made by committee, which it is to an extent. They are still finding levers to pull that are like I said, I was straight geeking, man. Like this is my shit. And they're hitting every note that I'm looking for from a genre fiction TV show.
And if you trace the strings back, they go, it's the start of the season. This was set up. Yeah.
Some of it even earlier.
And there was stuff that I couldn't talk about in the earlier episodes about Hadley's performance, the way she acts, the way she reacts to certain things that Ray says, and it's all, and it brings up these questions, like how long has she been corrupt and stuff like that.
Well, if you think about the way that Tower becomes DA, it's because Reyes is killed by Fisk's goons pretending to be the Punisher. Like, how back does Fisk's plan go? You can start to...
Wait, that was Fisk?
Who? I can't remember. Someone killed... It wasn't the Punisher.
That was the Clancy Brown's character. What's his name?
Oh, God. Finn Cooley?
The guy that Punisher kills at the end?
Yeah. Oh, the blacksmith.
Oh, I've lost your audio.
I can still hear you. I can hear you.
Where did you go?
2 hours later.
Bro, technical difficulties abound forever, it feels like, on this show. I feel like we don't have a single week of production where everything goes smoothly.
Yeah, that's tech for you.
This is why we need a producer. Okay, let's... Okay, yes, 100%. I want to change tack a little bit and get through some of the plot stuff, and then we can talk about the Matt internal psychology stuff. So the next scene we get is Karen runs away, goes off the grid, to the point where she's like, Foggy, please destroy my phone and my license, which is, pretty drastic. And finally... I mean, it's a very straightforward scene. He's like, where are you going? She's like, I don't know. Because we know she can't go home because her dad's like, oh, it's bad timing or whatever. So we don't really know what her plan is. And in a really good, like, just cooler show effect, filmmaking basics done right, we cut back to Maggie in the church, in the basement, and the opening shot is the crucifix necklace hanging on the lamp, and all of Matt's shit is gone. And so Karen goes, I don't know where I'm going. I'm running away. And then we cut to this shot and Maggie breaking down. Such simple fundamentals. Those two ideas are connected. So when we get the scene later, it's not a surprise.
Is that the order of the sequence? I can't.
Yeah.
I guess it is. Yeah.
It's the next shot.
Okay. Well, is it? I feel like doesn't the scene go that she has some little kid with her and she's like, oh, you're gonna go to a new family, and then Father Lantom comes in and he's like, Maggie, he knows. And then she goes downstairs.
Yeah, you're right.
And then she sees that the bed is empty.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, still, it's the scene still.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same sequence. yeah. But I just thought it was. This is what I've written down here. Finally, the cross necklace pays off. We have an answer, Pat. I'm sorry I kept badgering you about the necklace. Maggie rushes into the basement and the necklace is hanging on the lamp, and we get a brutal piece of acting as Maggie just loses it. It's hard to explain this shot and the way this is acted if you haven't watched the show. Grief is such a difficult thing to portray. I think in some ways, Better Call Saul is a really good example of the ways that grief manifests, right? Throughout the sequence of that show, as Jimmy loses people, you see different sort of degrees of grief become prevalent. You know, you get anger, you get like denial, you get all these different things, these different kind of manifest ways that grief comes to the surface. And I think this moment of a person who is, and you made a really good point, which is I think it's important the scene starts with her comforting someone who's afraid. Because Maggie's entire life is built on this fear that this thing will come out and that it will become true by being said aloud. She comforts this kid and she's like, it's fine, like it's a good place to be. Doing the same thing she did to Matt, which is like get rid of him and shunt him off, even though she could have helped him and kept him. And then to have the revelation and then to break down and sort of bawl your eyes out like a child finding out that, like, I remember crying like this when I realized that, like, I was going to die one day and that there was nothing else after this. Like, I remember that moment of, like, realizing my own mortality, right? Like, I remember this style of crying as a kid. And this is for Maggie, who is well past that, but that trauma is so locked in at that formative age of, like, 18, 19, 20, and has been pushed down so far that she just, like, she's, like, crying, she's sort of, like, grabbing the bed, and she's just, like, freaking out. And it's such fraught acting.
And I love later on, when she's talking with Karen, sorry, I'm jumping ahead a bit, but she gives this sort of fatalistic view on her circumstances about, isn't it strange how my cornerstone trauma is I left this baby when I was young, and he's brought back to me miraculously as the devil of Hell's Kitchen, and it's like a facing my own sins kind of thing. And I feel like the scene where she's crying, because I feel like she has this sense of that it's going to be that way forever, and so there's no rush to essentially tell Matt the truth, because and then when she's crying in the bed, it's her realization that, like, she lost a chance, pretty much. She lost a chance to make amends.
Yeah, the window closed. Yeah, which is what it felt like she was building up to in retrospect.
Yeah.
She's redeveloping this relationship. She's finding that closeness to then, and the similarities they have, right? Like the kind of bluntness, the kind of
snarkiness.
And like the kind of like stop being such a dramatic bitch, bro. Like all that energy, and you're right, to miss the chance. And she did. She missed her shot, and you're right. It felt like the only one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
God. And so Matt's response, I want to very quickly just impress. I'll probably put it in the edit. I'll say the name of the actress. I'm not going to look it up because we're in the flow of this thing. But I just like props to this actor for absolutely killing this scene and for just being a cornerstone of this season. It's really hard to come into a show 3 seasons in with such power. Vinny D, right? Like these powerhouses of actors, John Bernthal, right, in this show, these character actors to come in and to become such a pivotal cornerstone of this show. It deserves all the props in the world, and this scene really galvanizes that for me. When it comes to acting, which is something that I like, is so fundamentally foreign to me as a discipline, as an art form. Good acting is like porn. You know it when you see it, and this for me is that. It is just. It's perfect. It's exactly what was demanded, and props to the director if that's whatever the circumstances are. I just want to like dote on the quality of this moment for what it sets up for the. I think for me at least, this is really pivotal in the rest of what happens in the rest of this episode and the next episode working, which is like things aren't just dire. Things are broken in a way that can't be repaired. This is This is the start of that. This is the start of us finding out about things that can't be repaired, things that can't be set right, things that will never be set right. Yeah,
there's brilliant. A lot of irreparability in this show, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The actor who plays Sister Maggie is Joanne Wally. Just wanted to shout that out as promised. Great job. We love your work. Keep it up.
Dire Straits and not the band. Seemingly haunted by... That's a dumb joke. Seemingly haunted by the past, Matt breaks into Fogwell's gym. It's our first moment of this since season 1, I want to say. The flashbacks?
We get flashbacks of it with Elektra.
With the sexy fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
How
right.
could you forget the sexy fight?
She breaks the window. Oh, she breaks the window, and then he breaks it this time. Parallelism, Pat. Doesn't mean anything, just is parallelism.
Yeah. He needed a way to get in.
Needed a way to get in. He breaks in. Has a Felice sign out front, so clearly no one's really here. And then he doesn't really do anything. He just sits down in a huff. We get a scene. We cut back to him later, but he's there. Presumably he has nowhere to stay because he's left the church, right?
Right. Yeah. He's squatting there.
Yeah. Matt has become a squatter. Yes. Then we go. Is this? Do I have this right? So then it's Ray's house and Dex turning up for breakfast.
Are we sure that he doesn't have the conversation with his dad first?
He has this conversation with his dad before that happens after we cut back to Dex.
Okay.
It's when he's searching for the Muay Thai ropes that he has a conversation with his dad, which is after this, which is after Dex and Ray have done their montage to set up the trap.
Yeah. Okay.
The Matt dad scene is the interstitial scene between the setup for the trap and then the trap itself. But yeah, we go to Ray's house. Dex turns up and he's a smug little fucking goblin this whole episode. Did you feel that too?
Yeah. It's weird. He's found his place. He's almost self-actualized. He's so confident, and he's playing and talking with Nadeem's kid.
He's teaching him to throw a curveball, which is the thing he used to kill his first, the first person he killed.
Yeah, it's so. I don't know. You almost want to feel happy for Dex if it wasn't such fucked up context behind it.
I had that same feeling. I'll set up the scene. So basically, we're at Ray's house. They're digging the pool. There's a construction digger in the background. The pool is happening still for some reason. This is
it's a recurring motif about Ray is that this pool needs to be dug, and just keep an eye on this.
Oh, that doesn't bode well for Ray as a character. I know how stories work, Pat. That man gonna die in that pool. I'm cold calling it now. I don't remember. I'm just saying that if that's how stories work, it's a metaphor. Okay. You get buried, you get drowned in the pools that you never fill.
Yeah, you get buried in your own ambition.
There you
I
go.
suppose.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that is Ray's. He has pluck. That's the that's his issue. And it's just background detail. Dex is there, and he's like, "Hey, we're partners today," and this is what sets off the sequence / montage of. Well, it's not this exact order, but I want to talk about it here because I think it's important. Because these things happen in theory at the same time. So they're at Ray's place. Dex is sort of like, he's not threatening, but he knows that he has Nadeem here, so he's like, go change your shirt. I'll cover for you. We got work to do. They go to the FBI, and Dex is reinstated. And what I love, just as a detail of the show, Dex doesn't put on a suit. He's just wearing his civvies the whole time. He is so elevated and protected within Fisk's rank that he has no need for the mask anymore. To the point where when they start these raids, right, when they go and they do their raids on these criminals, one of the first shots we get is they walk into an auto dealership, an auto garage, a car repair place. He picks up a hammer and he just flings it at the back of a dude's head. Like, he is loving every second of this. And the ultimate moment where I had my moment of clarity, like Frank said in season 2 with Dex, is they walk into so he gets reinstated. They walk into the boardroom, and Ray. I don't know if you have a better word for describing Ray in this sequence, but he is like shaken to his being this whole time. He is like half out of his mind the whole time. And he walks into this boardroom and he goes, Fisk has something on all of you? Like, he can't believe it. And the only person, that's what I fucking love, Pat. It's everyone except Dex. Dex is the only person in that room who wants to be there. This is the exact place he wants to be. And everybody else is there because there's a gun to their head, effectively. And Dex is like smugly like, yeah, I'm the number 2, what of it? Like, this is where I belong.
That's what I mean. Like, you almost want to feel happy for him. Like, he's not psychotic anymore. He's found his place.
He's
Unfortunately,
fixed.
Yeah, exactly. He's fixed. Yeah. But he's a psychopathic killer.
How truly evil for like, when I said like Fisk only gets more evil in this episode, just seeing that boardroom full of people and someone, and Nadeem is like, oh, what has he got on you? And they go, it's better not to talk about it. And we don't say his name. And we use his code name. What's his code name? Kingpin. We get the drop. We get the drop, Pat.
Ooh. I love how they use the name Kingpin, like in the second season. He drops it once where he says, "You're right. There's only room for one Kingpin in this prison."
But that's because the other dude, Dutton, says I'm the Kingpin here, and I know that there's no throne that you don't want to sit in, right? Like, and what's great is season 1, Fisk is like, never say my name. This is the evolution of that. He's sort of, if season 1 is I need to be invisible and that way I'm untraceable. You can't catch me out. No one knows who I am. Season 2 is, I've met somebody that is a kingpin in their own little castle. Well, fuck that. I want to be kingpin of the whole fucking country, man. I'm trying to take over the world. It's that drive, that hunger.
Yeah. I just love the organic usage of the title of Kingpin in the show.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Show's good, really good. Again, like, it's hard to stress how much I fucking love these episodes, Pat. And then we get Matt internally. He's having a little dialogue with old Pops in the gym, and they have a little back and forth. It doesn't really amount to anything other than, Dad is like, listen, like you're too angry to think clearly. Like you've got murder in your head. It's been a while since you've worn the Mai Tai ropes, etc., and so forth. And Matt comes back with, well, so what happens? Oh, my notes are really confusing on this. So Matt talks. Yeah, there's two sequences. There's the initial one with his dad. Then there's the one with his dad that morphs into Fisk. So the initial one ends with Matt saying, "I don't let anyone suffer because of some. I don't let anyone suffer anymore because of some bullshit code. When I get to Fisk, I'm gonna kill him."
Mm.
Then we go to Maggie and Karen.
Yes.
I don't have a lot to say about the Matt dad convo. It's pretty pat. Not you, Pat, but Pat the expression as far as like it doesn't it's the start of the bit that matters, which is the bit we get after the cut.
It's weird though, like his dad's code. What does he say? Like it's loving the feel of my fist in someone else's face, and it's like coded as like a noble, like this
it's about victory. Like it's like this this carnal victory.
It's like this, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just weird how it's coded so nobly. His life as a boxer and wanting to punch people, wanting to win, and this masculine drive to
but it's undercut. It's undercut by the fact that like he's like, well, you and me, Maddie, we have the devil inside of us. It's like noble in the sense of it's like giving into your true nature. Like the victory is almost tertiary to the carnal delight of violence, to the sort of and I think in Matt's, because you got to keep in mind this is Matt talking to himself. Just Jack is emblematic, right? In the same way that Lantom said, when you don't have any parents, they're not people, right? He's like an idea in his head. Matt has, in the same way that Jack turned that to profit, to keep their family going, Matt has turned that to fight crime.
Mm-hmm.
So the nobleness isn't in the carnal delight of violence. It's in the channeling of that into something you pretend is productive to mask the carnal delight. Like the nobility perhaps lies in that it could be good that you do this in a productive way, but you've still got the devil in you. Like indelibly, you're still doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, and it's his dad chiding Matt that Matt is more so on the side of the giving into his carnal urges and less so that he's doing it for a noble purpose. And then you have to again filter that through the fact that it's Matt talking to himself. So is he trying to retroactively put his dad on some sort of pillar of like morality, like no, like,
well, no, because then he yells at his dad and he's like, there was nothing noble about you doing, like, not taking that fall and fucking dying.
Yeah.
Like I think Matt's argument becomes you not taking that fall, you not losing, you putting your pride above me fucking having you, and this is obviously about Maggie. There's nothing to do with Jack, and this is where it gets fucking like so hard to pass, right? You not taking the dive wasn't like, for all of the this, that, and the third that you're saying about the delight of victory and like beating a man and this, that, and whatever. You left me, you abandoned me by making that choice, and I'm trying to stop that cycle by killing Fisk. Like I'm taking the fall in a real way. You know, Jack refuses to take the fall. Matt is gonna take the fall and damn himself, and that's his argument. And I like the kind of thematic symmetry of you're paid to take a fall to make your family the money, But he goes, no, I need my son to have pride in me and to see that I'm a man and to see that I can win. And then Matt is like doing the opposite of pride, where he is like, I will corrupt my soul forever to protect the ones I love. I will do the thing that my father never could.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
that reminds me of Dune, about how Paul doesn't want to go down the golden path because he doesn't want to kill billions of people, so he just lets his son do it. And then his son has that same reaction where he's like, my father was weak and, he didn't have the will to do it.
Yeah, spoilers for Dune. Paul's a bad dude. And also everyone related to Paul and involved with Paul is also a bad dude.
Yeah.
Everyone after they land on Arrakis related to Paul, bad dudes. Everything before that, fine. Generally.
Have you seen part 2 yet?
I've read all the books, but no, I haven't seen part 2 yet.
Oh, we should go watch it.
Have you not seen it?
I've seen it, but I want
we
to
should go watch it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Let's go watch it. Yeah, well, when I'm back from Perth on Wednesday, we'll go watch it. The boys go see Dune Part 2. Okay. I'm trying to think what I want to talk about next. Should we talk about Karen and Maggie? Maybe that's kind of next on the docket here. So, can you? Okay. Karen goes to see Maggie in the hopes of finding Matt to apologize for maybe revealing to Fisk that Matt is Daredevil. That's her design, right? Because
she wants to warn Matt before she goes, is what she says.
Right, that Fisk knows.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. One of the things that's making this conversation really hard is all of my notes are just me praising the show. There's not a lot of substance in them. This note just says, oh, Karen turns up to see Sister Maggie looking for Matt. What a compelling choice as a storyteller. Whoever made this structural choice is a fucking genius, and I'm jealous of them. It's a lot of that.
That's funny. That's kind of my note as well. I wrote here, Maggie's explanation of why she didn't tell Matt is really compelling, and I didn't actually write down what the subject of the
I
what they actually talked about.
It forces, and this is why it works. It forces Maggie to justify her choices without apologizing. If this scene was with Matt, it would be an act of contrition, where she's sort of trying to apologize to him and prove to him that what she did was a mistake. Instead, she's trying to enact penance with Karen, which is saying, I've hurt someone you love about. And the god level structural work happening here is that Karen goes to Sister Maggie to apologize to Matt and warn him about making this fucking fatal error about his identity. While Matt has abandoned Sister Maggie because he learned his true identity, while Sister Maggie feels guilty about Matt's true identity. And when I say true identity, each vector is a different identity. Where for Karen, it's the fact that Matt is Daredevil. For Matt, it's the fact that Maggie is his father. And for Maggie, it's the fact that she failed Matt, and she failed Jack, and she failed her life, and it's about her identity. And so these three characters are brought into this beautiful thematic kind of parallel where they're each having the same struggle, but it's about different, like it's different for each of them. And
that is good.
And it's such a simple moment. And my other note here says Karen looks more harrowed than ever. And
she looks like she has a cold.
She looks cold, man. Hey, listen, Hell's Kitchen, cold as fuck, bro. Yeah, and what they basically say is she tries to explain to Karen, look, we didn't have a word back then for postpartum depression. I thought it was the devil's in me. I thought it was the sin. I don't know what to think. There was no explanation. I shut down. Right? I shut down.
She says, I thought I'd betrayed God, is what she says, which is very good, yeah.
And then she said, she goes, look, at the end of it, she goes, what can you say to someone who scarred your friend for life? And Karen goes, well, I have to get out of here. And she's like, look, listen, the church has been hiding people for thousands of years. It's the one thing we're good at. Don't read further into that and who they hide and why, because it's mostly pedophiles. And that's a lot of what the Catholic Church did for a long time. It still does.
Way to bring this subject down.
Yeah. Well, the grievously depressing conversation they're already having. Come on.
All right, fair point.
I just wanted to place it in historical context, which is I think that like the Catholic Church as an institution is probably a net negative on reality in a way that other religions maybe aren't. And that is my take about Catholicism, and I will accept no ats or emails about it.
The Spanish conquistadors would like to have a word with you, mate.
They would love to chat about it, yeah. Basically, what ends up happening is Karen is offered by Maggie. Maggie's like, hey, lay low here for a minute. I'll get you halfway around the world if I need to. And so Matt's kind of estranged paramour, his estranged lover, is going to be hidden in the same church where he abandoned his friends and his sense of self and slowly refound them and refound Daredevil. His estranged paramour is going to hide out there during the climactic events of this story in the same church that Matt grew up in with Father Lantom and Sister Maggie. And I'm so mad I didn't write this fucking show, Pat. Like, in the wake of Matt's heartbreak, right? The fact that he can't stay here. He has to retreat to his father. The one emblem of his past. The one kind of the flawed jewel of his potential childhood that is his father. He flees to his father's gym, and Karen ends up in the place where he could have actually been safe and had a life with his mother. Are you fucking kidding me? Get out of here.
Very Matt-centric.
Yeah, because he's the devil of Hell's Kitchen. He's the one person who has any agency whatsoever to stop all of this fucking madness. And so the kind of cosmic reality, the kind of moral reality of the show begins to orbit around him and Fisk. And that becomes the aperture narrows.
Yeah, and then it sort of complements this divine providence about Maggie being sent the devil of Hell's Kitchen and Karen finding her way to her, and yeah.
It's so good. I can't believe how good this season is. Is this your favorite season? Did you say that at some point? I can't remember.
I feel like every season I watch, as I'm watching it, I'm like, this is my favorite season.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
I feel like, right now, I'm loving this season. It's pretty good.
It's funny. I know there's stuff I want to cover on the kind of broader structure of what this show is, which is the ZeroIndent review, which is kind of how from a production perspective, I've put this all in sequence. So, it's like each big broad strokes season of the show is a close study of one piece of genre fiction, right? So me and Darth did Sherlock. We're doing Daredevil. I know for sure I want to do Sandman. I know for sure I want to do Darker Than Black. I have these ideas of what I want to cover. This is one of the few times where, I know in Sandman, which are my favorite arcs of all time. And I don't think that's going to change as I read it. Because I know my taste in game and I know what I like about him. This is the first time where what you just said is true. Every time we get to a season, I'm like, this is it. It's the pinnacle. This is the best the show has ever been. And it's every season.
Yeah. You're just so in it. It's because of that escalation and the way it structures the drama, and you're just so invested in the, what you're currently experiencing in the show. I think because it has such energy and momentum, and everything else just sort of fades away. Yeah.
It really is the momentum, and I think that's also that is also why the method. I think that's also the method paying off. Which is that's why it's not like one recording session per season. Like the method pays off in that way where it puts us in the place of the prototypical viewer, but with the added academic layer of this is stuff that we know about and know how to talk about and deconstruct or reconstruct or synthesize or shunt off or disregard or redouble. I think from a production perspective, I think it's proof that this was the right choice for what I want to do moving forward. It does feel like the fact that we just had that conversation about Maggie, Matt, and Karen is the method paying off. That doesn't happen if you watch it all at once.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. But
Turns out, after 10 years of podcasting, I figured out the thing. It took me a decade, but I got there.
You got me thinking about Sandman now. Can I just say my favorite arc in Sandman is the one where he has to give away the key to hell? I fucking love that one. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to say mine because I'm saving that. Because inevitably you'll be involved in that in some capacity. I don't want to keep that as a little twist.
Okay.
I definitely want to cover Darker Than Black, but I need to find some non-anime people to watch it with me because I'm not an anime guy and I need sort of some fellow compatriots. It's one of my favorite stories of all time, but it's an anime, and for me that's very out of character, and that's why I want to study it. Like
that is out of character.
Yeah, what is it about this that works for me in a way that, and what doesn't work as well, right? There is stuff in it which
I remember you covered that on DCM like years and years ago.
Yeah, I made Ruby watch it, and then our most popular video of all time, it has like 800,000 views, is a vaguely condescending, it starts condescending of me being like, it's good for anime, like it's that kind of video essay. So I want to give it its due and study it as a text in time.
I have to catch myself so much from being vaguely condescending when I make when I'm writing stuff or making content, because it's so, I feel that way about so many things, especially when it comes to like other people's opinions.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I gotta widen my perspective.
Yeah. I've given up on other people's opinions in the sense that like I've made enough animes of mainstream people that I don't have to worry about people being upset so much as I have to worry about seeming like an asshole because I don't understand a medium. Like I don't understand anime as a medium of art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny that you have enemies though. You actually labeled as enemies. It's a Sheldon Cooper kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. They labeled themselves that way to me.
No. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try and. I have so many notes on this episode. Let's try and wrap this up if we can, in a timely fashion. But fucking, I've got still half a page. Okay. So Karen and Maggie. Karen's gonna go into the rabbit hole, staying with Maggie. At the church. Crucially, at the church. It's really important. It's a comic book thing. We saw it in the movie. The church is important. For Bullseye and Daredevil.
Right.
It's a reference to a moment in the comics.
Oh, okay.
Does that make it good? No. Is it good anyway? Yes. That was my TV presenter voice. That was me calling the AFL for a minute. Okay, so back elsewhere, Foggy is visiting his family at the butcher, and basically, we don't have to talk about it too much because it's fairly simple. Basically, Foggy's brother is having trouble getting approved the extension for the loan on the lien that is the mortgage of the land that their business runs on. And the way this happens is someone calls them from the bank. It's Red Lion Bank, which crucially, as we know from Karen's reporting, is the bank that basically, through a series of shell companies, owns the hotel in which Fisk has his penthouse, and is the way in which he's been able to be imprisoned but be completely free to do what he wants. And Manning calls up Foggy's brother and is like, if Foggy doesn't beg off Fisk and stop running for DA, you and your parents are going to prison because they signed the loan. They signed the lien on the loan for the lease of the butcher shop. And it's just, again, another like just the small evil of Fisk, that this is like a little afterthought that is going to destroy these people's lives. It's such a specific kind of evil. I don't know. It works for me in
the
such a big way.
bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
elite.
It's what Marx was talking about, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ecology of machines, son. Felix was on it. Can't have 3 ecologies. You need to get rid of the money part. It destroys everything. Okay, yeah. Not a lot to say there. Basically, Foggy now has a moral dilemma, which is, does he pursue his campaign as DA, which it seems like he's now has a real chance because he's going viral, or does he beg off to save his family? Or what? And this is what we said at the start. Like, it feels like everyone is running out of cards to play. Foggy's primary card was like, if I'm running for DA against Fisk, I'm safe. If he begs off Fisk, he's not safe anymore. He's a target. But if he doesn't, well, his family's going to prison. There's no card to play here. There's no maneuver, right?
Yeah. And the way they ended up in that situation in the first place is, again, this extremely long con by Fisk that was set up a year ago.
So long ago.
And there's this elaborate plot of how their suppliers stopped taking their orders, and then someone rang them from the bank and helped them, mix up their numbers. Yeah.
But I think that's why the codename Kingpin is so important, is that he acquires that from Dutton in prison. And it implies that all the way back to when he was in prison, when we sort of experienced all of the kind of extant text around Fisk controlling the prison and having all of these sort of fingers and all these pies outside of the prison, it seems like even back then this was part of the plan. The second he arrived in prison, maybe all of these wheels started turning. Yeah. All right, let me breeze through some stuff. We find out why Hadley is under Fisk's thumb, which is she said in an absolutely brutal elevator ride. This is the line she says. She reveals to Ray that his sister's medical coverage was denied because of Fisk, and this put Ray into debt, which put him on tilt to need the promotion, which encouraged him to take a risk he shouldn't have with Fisk. And he's like, well, what about you? And she says, I used to have 2 children, Ray. They made it look like a hit and run. I got a divorce. I thought it would keep her safer.
Pretty dark.
And my note here is, holy shit, Fisk is more evil than we ever imagined. And then in this sort of like gestural maneuver, he has Ray bow before him and disable his ankle monitor.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's like just...
He wants like symbolic power as much as he wants like physical power, yeah.
Well, I think they're interchangeable for him, right?
Yeah. Also, I like if you sort of look back, remember how Hadley was sort of reluctant to give Ray the Fisk detail, and it sort of like makes sense now. It's because it sort of implies that he was trying to protect him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's Hadley's great tragedy. She likes Ray. They're friends.
Yeah.
Whoops. Like, just what? It's like the milk is spilled and there's no way to put it back in the bottle in such a fucked up way. So the FBI, with Dex just having a fucking field day. Like, this man is living his best life. They round up all these criminals quietly and they bring them to a restaurant. And Dex has Ray call Daredevil, has Matt, and says, hey, Fisk will be here. Fisk basically says, like, hey, like, I'll protect you from the FBI because I have it like that. Look at these motherfuckers. Look at me. Like, the FBI are here. They work for me. I'll protect you from litigation, from investigation. I want 20%. And so, someone starts to mouth off and is like, this, that, and the third. Dex kills them by throwing the baton at them. And then Fisk goes, cool, the rate is 25. They all agree. And they're kind of waiting for this trap to get set. Criminally, Pat, Turk isn't here. Where's our boy? Where's our boy?
Well, Turk is just a straight up criminal. These people seem like they're sort of on the
They're
right
organized.
side of the law criminals. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just disappointed to not see Turk. That's all I'm saying. That's what my note says. Yeah. And while this is happening, we cut back to Matt at the gym, and he's going through all the drawers and going through all the things, and this is where he's looking for something, and his dad is talking to him, and Matt comes upon some Muay Thai ropes, which I did some research. They called Kad Chiok, which I've pronounced terribly. And basically, it was a form of kind of a way for Muay Thai fights to become more exciting for an audience, because you would hit harder and you'll protect your knuckles with the rope. And so it adds heft and, weight and things like that, because it's obviously more mass. And you're also kind of providing some insulation so you can fight longer and do more damage. It's like cranking the sort of me plus them damage in a video game, where it's like, I hit harder, but also so do the enemies. It's like the best version of Dark Souls, is what Matt's doing. And his dad's like, dude, like this, you're not thinking properly. And as his dad is giving him this lecture about not being in control, his dad morphs into Fisk. And Matt then beats Fisk to death and snaps his neck and his head.
You let the intrusive thoughts win.
My boy needs some beta blockers for real. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Just to see what it felt like, Pat.
I really love this montage of him beating Fisk and snapping his neck, because I feel like the chaos of this scene is actually what goes on in like my head sometimes. Followed by like the silence. Like that's like very real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really well executed. And it's the first time maybe I'm not annoyed or frustrated at like a genre level with the internal monologue becoming realized by a person in the room. It feels so immediate. And I was thinking about this when I watched it. I almost wonder if this isn't more effective if it's the first time this ever happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really feel too
I don't know how I
strongly
feel about it. I think it just comes from my reticence from the like literary device at all.
Right.
Like I'm trying to find ways to justify its inclusion, I guess.
You got that Robert McKee attitude. God help you if you include voiceover in your story.
Okay, well let's
God
not.
help you.
I mean, that's a movie. He doesn't believe that.
Yeah, it's not him.
Which, by the way, what a strong ego to be like, yeah, I'll be in a film and say a thing I don't believe. That's a level of that's a lack of ego that I don't have. Shout outs. Okay. What's really cool to me is the end of this episode, which is Matt doesn't show up. We think the whole time as this is playing out, where they're setting up the trap, that he's turning off the lights, he's doing da-da-da-da. He's doing Robert Pattinson infiltrates the Iceberg Lounge in the Batman. But the genius of the way it's cut is he's infiltrating somewhere else. And so the trap doesn't get sprung, and so they head back to the penthouse. And as they do, we realize Matt is in the penthouse. He's in Fisk's home, and he comes upon the secret room, the secret monitoring room, and the assistant that is there. He says, what does Fisk want with Karen? And she says he wants her killed. And then basically like, hey, they're coming back. You have like seconds to figure out what you want to do. And she's like, look, I have to tell them that you were here. He's like, do what you want. Our assumption being he's going after Karen with this new information. And it's such a fraught, heightened way to end an episode.
Hey, come up with the most like compelling, interesting dilemmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if he stays, he can kill. I mean, explain the dilemma, right? Like.
Well, yeah. So because she says to him, she essentially says to him, "This is going to be your only shot of getting Fisk, because you're never going to get back in here, because I'm going to tell him he's going to triple security. You got lucky this time, essentially." So his options are to grab this opportunity to kill Fisk, or he needs to go save Karen, because there is an APD out on her, and we all know that the cops are not to be, or at least the FBI is not to be trusted.
At this point, like, no one is to be trusted except
Yeah.
Foggy, Matt, and Karen. Honestly,
Yeah.
like
And
we've hit
their
that
cop
point.
friend.
Who's the cop friend?
Who's
not
who's more
Tower.
Foggy's friend?
Mahoney.
Yeah, Mahoney.
Yeah. Well, he's a detective now, Pat. He's not a cop anymore.
Oh, true.
Thank you very. I put some respect on his name. Thank you very much.
My bad.
Yeah. You know what? It was. That's rude. He's our boy.
sorry.
Yeah. You should be. Absolutely sensational episode of the way that this. I want to foreground the start of our discussion after our break, which is the way that this puts the like. It shifts into like 6th gear and puts the foot down and then goes, hang on a minute. I have some interesting character drama that's only going to make this worse is gold. Like, and this is the bit I was expecting to hate, which is the next episode starts with a flashback, which I am engendered to dislike just at a disciplinary level. I don't like flashback. I don't like, unless the story is structured around flashback, I think that like any change in kind of temporal mechanism is fraught with challenges. And I think that the first 30 minutes of the next episode is probably some of the best television Daredevil can achieve, but it has nothing to do with Daredevil as a vehicle.
Interesting, because I disagree.
I'll elaborate. Well, this is going to be good because we'll have an argument, because I have a lot of complicated thoughts about why I think that.
Okay.
And the genre inspiration I think it's pulling on, and the kind of the questions that putting this flashback at the time, which is before 2009, and the ways in which it's imagining the kind of, I have a lot of thoughts about the ways that Canada as a place and Vermont as a place in time is and isn't impacted by the horror that corrupted the American psyche that was Vietnam, and the way that like this feels so pre-2009, where that prioritization of the global financial collapse and Iraq doesn't exist yet, and what I think that's doing at like a genre level, and why I think it's so effective being that. I will elaborate, I promise, but we're gonna have to take a break, okay? Because we talked for an hour and a half this episode. Because there's a lot to chew on, and as I said, it was going to be a punchy one. We already knew it. We knew it was going to happen. We're going to take a quick break. You'll hear some advertisements for things within the network, whether they be products, shows, whatever it is. You'll hear something. We'll be right back with you to talk about season 3, episode 10, titled Karen, of course. We'll be right back. This season of Daredevil in the Details is brought to you by the Maynard Trigg series. These are my Dying Earth science fantasy steampunk coming of age novels. The 3rd book is out now. You can grab the first book, Maynard Trigg and the Creature Beneath the Veil, hardback or paperback. It's on special right now at underink.press. Appreciate any support you guys give. These books are one of my favorite things I've ever done. I'm super proud of them, and I would love you guys to check it out. If you're interested in the stuff we do, I guarantee you'll enjoy these books. Head to underink.press and grab your copy today. Welcome back. We are talking about season 3, episode 10, Karen, written by Tamara Becca Wilkinson, directed by Alex Garcia Lopez, a returning director. Pat, could we please hear the summary?
In the then, Karen lives in Vermont, selling drugs while working at her father's diner in a Stephen King novel from the 80s. Wow, that is really accurate. Wikipedia incorrectly claims that Karen is selling drugs because she's grown bored of her small-town life, when in fact it is more complex than her brother's accusation. It seems that the family diner could be profitable, but her father continues to make poor financial choices, exemplified by ordering a grill they can't afford, with the assumption Karen will figure something out. And yes, it is the summary's place to judge Wikipedia. Do better, the internet. Kevin Karen's brother re-enrolls Karen in college, which spirals into a conflict that results in Karen shooting her boyfriend in the shoulder and driving her brother away. But during their escape, Karen crashes the truck and Kevin dies. Her father tells Karen to leave. In the now, Karen lives in the church basement, sleeping on the very same bed as Matt did only a day prior. Dex arrives at the church in the red armor, while Lantom performs mass. Daredevil intervenes. What follows is a bloody melee that leaves Matt unconscious and Father Lantom dead. The episode ends with Karen cradling an unconscious Matt. A harrowing end to a harrowing 46 minutes. Very poetic.
Yeah,
summary.
I'm punching above my weight at the moment on these summaries. I wanted to try in the summary to convey the fraughtness of this episode of TV. That like it, you know, when we talked, we constantly talk about Karen as being the most harried woman on the planet.
Yeah.
Turns out that's from day one. That's day zero for Karen.
It's all the drugs.
It's not the drugs.
No, I'm kidding. That's
I know.
That's what like Boomer was watching this would say, like, oh, it's because all the partying.
I in that moment I played the role of Mitchie. This is okay. I want to talk about genre because when I said that it felt like it was a thing outside of Daredevil, I inserted into the summary that it feels like a short story or it feels like a Stephen King novel from the 80s. I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. It's a small town story. It is deeply personal and deeply psychological and very simple in the moving pieces, right? Like the 80s Stephen King small town novel, and the town novel is the thing that made Steve famous, right? And what's happening here is it's a small town, rural Vermont, and what's really brilliant is we open on not that. We open on the way we know it's 2004 is the club music is terrible at a party, and we open on Karen kind of half nude at a party, giving someone a body shot through like a little fountain thing, and then selling drugs. Some dude tries to rip her off, and her boyfriend intervenes, right? And the next morning at sort of dawn-ish, right, very, very early, she goes to work at the diner. And what the Kingian aspect, the indelibly Kingian aspect here is that in another story, the drug dealing, the drug using, the drug selling would be the like, that would be the plot linchpin that the whole thing revolves around. Instead, it's the fact that the diner is being managed by her father and is being kept alive because it was her mother's diner. It's Penny's diner. Penny is her mother's name. And he doesn't have it like that. He can't run a diner. He keeps making these bad financial choices, which keep pushing Karen to deal drugs and make money other ways. And so the pressure point isn't the drugs. It's this pretend version of reality where if they just keep the diner going and if they just don't scratch the lotto ticket and nothing changes, we can preserve some semblance of this time that is lost. And that is like the indelibly Kingian imagination of the 80s, which is looking back at Vietnam and the fundamental damage it did to the spirit of America. And all of these people, Stephen King's age, these boomers sitting there going like, why were we there? Like, what was the point of it? Like, it was wrong to be there. And this sits in that same mode contemporaneous to those ideas, which is like, they haven't moved on from this trauma. They're trapped in this trauma. And that for me is what makes it indelibly Kingian, is the trauma gives rise to the mistakes, which gives rise to the necessity for Karen to step outside of the small town life and to find that boyfriend. And the boyfriend is also indelibly Kingian, right? He is a cool slick-ish dude who's kind of a hick, who's kind of not. He feels a bit like there's a character in The Stand who is very much as he drives a hot rod. This is all moving in the mode of that small town novel for me in a way that I just delight in.
Yeah, I totally feel you on that. Like, there's this uncanny disreality, so, like something is not right. There's a looming creepiness or something like that. Yeah,
Something is there's a portent of doom, and we don't know what that is. Well, we kind of do. We know that something happens to Karen's brother. We don't know why. And it feels like it could be any of these things. And it turns out to be all of them. And that's the like juice of this flashback, is that it's not one thing, it's all of them.
When you lay out the form of this flashback like that, like that does actually sound very compelling. I like that.
Well, that's what I came to.
Just,
you know.
Yeah. It just falls short in execution for me.
Say more about that, because that's how I felt before this viewing.
There's something about this episode that just is not quite right. It feels like it's trying to be poetic, but it comes off as quite contrived, I think. For example, there's her boyfriend being... I feel like the show is trying to draw a parallel between her boyfriend in the then and Matt, in that they're both religious people, but this boyfriend is like, he keeps going on about the Buddha and attachment is the root of suffering. I
thought he was being ironic. The namaste when he beats the dude up. I don't know. I thought that was like...
Okay.
That's what I mean about the Vietnam thing. Is like, because that became the ironic response to Vietnam after the fact.
No, I don't think it's ironic, because there's that bit where they're shooting, you know, I think they're shooting
Buddhas, yeah.
Yeah. And then Karen, you know, they're talking about whether Karen is going to go off to college, and she says, you know, I'm not going anywhere. And then he says something, you know, makes a remark about impermanence, and he says, nothing is permanent, Karen, not even the Buddha. I feel like that doesn't really make sense if he's being ironic. Like, what does that even mean? So
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So you know, there's a mirroring going on. Right? Her boyfriend in the future is a Christian Catholic. Boyfriend in the past is
with a double life.
Yeah, with a double. Yeah, exactly. And her boyfriend in the past is an Eastern religious guy, supposedly, who leads a double life.
Can you can you set up?
Yeah.
So I want to dig into this in detail. I feel for the listener. Can you set up the summary kind of gives you the broad strokes, but can you set up the dynamics of these four characters? So we have Todd, Kevin, Karen, and Dad, right?
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, Karen works at her dad's diner, along with her brother. Her brother is the cook. Karen is the, you know, front staff.
Waitress, if you will.
Yeah, waitress, yeah. At the beginning, it seems like her dad's a real hard ass, and it's her and her brother sort of like together, you know, looking out for each other, having each other's backs. And then Karen, we follow Karen, and she has a boyfriend who is this
Todd.
Yeah, Todd. He's a drug dealer.
He's like a sexy early 2000s kind of like alternate guy. He's like proto hipster before hipster was a thing, almost.
Yeah, he seems to like have, you know, he's not exactly like a loser, but he doesn't have any prospects. You know, he's happy just being a drug.
Oh my god,
he's happy being a drug dealer in this small town.
He's James Franco in Freaks and Geeks. He's the sexy burnout that's kind of smart.
Right.
Yeah. The 90s kids will know what I'm fucking talking about.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's fine. That's fine. Just aging, just dating myself. Whatever.
So yeah, her dad set up as a bit of an antagonist.
So the crucial thing for me, the crucial thing is that the dad is set up as like the structural antagonist in the family, where they run Penny's diner, which is the diner that is named after Karen's mom, and Dad and Kevin are living in the lie that Penny loved the diner.
Mm-hmm.
Karen is seemingly, we don't know. This is just the way that Karen, because this whole thing is from Karen's perspective. It seems like Karen knows something they don't, which is that Penny fucking hated this town. And she wanted to leave, and this diner was like a lead weight on her ankle. And we get a comment later, which we'll get to when we get to. But the crucial thing here is that Karen knows or suspects or feels deeply that this is a dead end, and she is supporting her brother and her dad. Her brother is kind of a hapless idiot in a certain sense. Like, he keeps making these blunders. And I think I know why it feels incredulous, and I think I know why you feel the way that you do, which is he's this kind of hapless idiot who makes choices that don't feel like a person would make in the same way that her dad does, where he like everything he does, you go, that feels grounded and real. The thing that incites the conflict is so silly from Kevin. Like
I know.
Yeah, it's so silly.
It's very unbelievable. Yeah.
But that's also the Kingian thing happening. And I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying I'm just being descriptive. Like, it's always something small and dumb. Like, if the thing that kicks off Salem's Lot, where the town gets infected by vampires, is this dude who is sleeping with a married woman, right? They're having an affair. He goes to her place. She's wearing nothing but a kitchen apron. They have sex, and then the boyfriend, the husband, comes home, and he chases this dude off with a shotgun, and he's the first one to get got by the vampires. And that's what starts the town becoming affected by vampires. And the Kingian impulse is it's always something small, specific, usually in the 80s at least, some aspect of immorality or some kind of choice that you can see this becoming King's turn to God after the accident in the early 2000s. But certainly, like, it is playing in the same space. And the ideas work for me more than the content itself, I suppose is the way to say it. I also just, before we get into the meat of it, calling your kids Kevin and Karen is kind of fucked up. Right? Am I crazy?
No, that is. They're boring fucking names. Like, why? Why would you do that?
Also, why the same? Karen and Kevin?
Well, I mean, that's a very common thing in other cultures, like, you know,
in Vermont,
like,
Pat.
Yeah, well, yeah, it sticks out in Vermont for sure.
Say more though. What like? Because sorry, I was being a dick. What did you mean?
That's all right. Okay, yeah. So what you just said about how the idea and the structure of it works better for you. This flashback, what it feels like to me is early internet people writing SCP stories, who, like, young people who are influenced by Stephen King and enthusiastic to write their own horror, and they have these cool, they may be cool Lovecraftian ideas or, horror ideas, and then because they're trying to emulate King, they feel compelled to insert human drama, and because it's like young people writing it, it's like it doesn't, it's very weird and sort of not very good.
Kind of fanficky.
Yeah, fanficky, yeah. That's what this kind of feels like to me. Not to that bad of a degree. Like, it's obvious, it's good. Like,
but it's shades of that.
Yeah. It gives me an underlying sense of, like, it's contrived. It just feels contrived to me.
This is what I want to ask about. Why is this here?
In the scope of the season?
Structurally, why is this flashback here? Now, no, I can't stress enough how sometimes the methodology makes this difficult because you know what happens and I don't remember how this all kind of shakes out. But like, if you had to talk about structurally, if you had to speculate why this is here, like, what is this trying to do for us in this story, and perhaps knowing that it falls short in some way, because I think we both agreed with that to an extent. What is the thing it's reaching for that it doesn't hit?
I think it's the same thing as the Maggie flashback. It's meant to put you in Karen's shoes. It's meant to make you feel for her. It's meant to contextualize why Karen is so harried and so feels so bad in the modern setting. It's pretty tragic. It's pretty traumatic what happens to her, and I feel like you can.
But it doesn't change. It doesn't change her, right? Like, this is the thing that I can't get past is the Karen that we get here, the clever, conniving, trying to do the right thing, sacrificing herself. It's the same Karen that we know.
Yeah.
I know. This isn't before Karen. It's Karen fully formed with a tragedy that happens to her. There's no comportment of character.
And that's exactly why I think that's the only function this flashback has, is to make you be like, oh shit, she's been through some shit. And I understand why she's, has so much trauma. But as you said, like, it doesn't I feel like it even doesn't recontextualize anything in the show. Like, if they left her backstory as a mystery, like, it wouldn't. That scene where she's talking to the woman whose father was beaten, and she's like, oh, people think I killed my brother. If you watch that scene with or without the context of this flashback, it doesn't change anything.
Because she's the same. And my biggest critic, what I said before turns out not to be true. Which is that when I was saying that, like, oh, maybe it being written by committee has an effect. This is what's affected it. Is a diligent, careful writer would have approached this and gone, what is Karen before this? And started with that. Maybe she's a bit more hapless, less conniving, right? Like, you have to give me proto Karen not fully formed, and she's so fully formed. And the worst part is all of the ideas are great, and the Kingian thing is only lent on to an extent. There's a great line which she says to Todd, which she says, I feel like if I she's talking about the diner. She goes, I feel like if I burned it down, it'd respawn by morning. What a, like, this idea that this thing is like so existentially perpetual in their lives that, like, even destroying it feels like it'd just come back. Like, there's so many good ideas here and none of them come together. Even some other stuff that I found really frustrating, like her dad calls pancakes for dinner Karen cakes. Stuff like that has no place in this script. Like, it, you know what I mean? Like, it becomes real clicky real quick.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like,
yeah. I will become more positive on it in a second, but to schematically lay this out, so we've already kind of given you the kind of broad strokes, but we want some detail here. Paint some. What do they say? Paint around the frame, as it were. So the conflict is that Kevin is the burnout boyfriend that Karen is sleeping with, and they're selling drugs and stuff like that.
No, that's her brother.
Todd is the burnout boyfriend. Kevin is the brother. It's because you shouldn't have two characters. Unrelated to this, there are so many characters in this show that have F as the name. It's like Foggy, Fogwell, Fisk, Felix Manning. Like, I have to edit my summaries to not have F's back to back so that you don't fucking have a tongue twister moment, Pat.
Oh, thank you. So considerate.
You're welcome. So the what I want to get to here is schematically, she's in the small town. She's selling drugs and I found Wikipedia's summary so fascinating, where it's like Karen sells drugs because she's bored of her her small town life, which is what her brother accuses her of. And really, the subtext of that is her brother saying, if you don't leave, you're going to be trapped in Todd's vortex forever. Like, this is it for you. And again, very, very Kingian. And what's actually true is that she can't leave because her brother and her dad can't take care of themselves. Well, she doesn't believe they can take care of themselves because her dad just keeps making these irresponsible choices in service of her mum's memory. And it's this sort of like, if we just keep it going and we maintain the illusion, that's honoring her memory. And the way that this shakes out is Kevin re-enrolls Karen in college, and she's lured to a dinner with them, and they're sitting on the opposite side of the table. Notable framing, really good filmmaking. And Karen kind of wigs out. She's like, I can't leave because, you two have no fucking idea how the universe works. You don't know how life works. And she grabs the framed lotto ticket, which is, her mum used to buy these lotto tickets, and it's the last lotto ticket she bought before she died of cancer, right? And she breaks the frame and she scratches the lotto ticket, and they won nothing. And Karen delivers this line where she says, "Mum felt like she was dying here a long time before she got cancer."
You ever wonder why Mom kept buying lottery tickets?
She bought them for something to hope on when she went into remission.
Yeah, and you know what she was hoping? She was hoping that if she ever got a second chance, she would get us the hell out of here. Well, Mom never got to find out, so let's see, huh?
Put that down!
What do you think? One scratch, and we pay off all the bills. One scratch, and we go our own way. One last gift from Mom.
Don't. Can please stop?
Mom lost again. We all lose. Now we know.
There is... Yeah, it's. I think you're right. The execution falls short because all of this material should work. As written, it could be cliche, and it is in the way that it's presented here. But it could, this could work. And I think it's because the inciting incident is nothing. It's her brother re-enrolling her to college. That is what kicks all this off. It needed to be something more existential. I don't know what, right?
I've written down here. I've tried to sort of have a go at what the themes of this flashback is and how they tie into the rest of the show. And I wrote it's about losing. And in terms of if you want a before and after of, Karen's life trajectory, you won't get that. But in terms of a compounding parallel theme that, has emotional weight, that is a pretty, and, has an existential kind of flavor to it. That's something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Losing, yeah.
When that to me is why this hits so well after the previous episode, which is Lantom loses, Maggie loses, Foggy loses, Karen loses, everybody, Matt loses. Everyone has played all of their hands, and there is no. That's the final play, and it turns out the first play was doomed from the start, but it doesn't hit. This is a this is the kind of writing choice that is a swing, and this is what I appreciate is while it's cliche and while it's sort of easy, if you will, it's a swing that misses, but I appreciate that they picked up the bat, right? Like I appreciate they tried this because it comports so many interesting questions of the show and then fails because like we already said, Karen is the same Karen. She's fully formed here. And I genuinely think that's the reason this doesn't work. Is it doesn't feel like this changes her in any way. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this needs to feel like. We go, everyone is losing. Here is the naive past before loss has happened. Oh, loss is inevitable and it's coming for us all. And that starts that redoubles your momentum as the show reaches its climax. But because she's fully formed, it's like, well, yeah, loss is inevitable, but it doesn't matter because she's already here.
I think maybe a better place to have started Karen is to make her a bit more selfish.
Yeah.
Because everyone in this town is awful to Karen.
Yeah, they're all dicks.
Yeah, they're all really
the
awful.
Police, the sheriff, right?
Yeah, the 601 Karen. I also love the misogyny. Is you remind me of my wife. It's not a good thing. It's just like, yeah, that's
2003 really was a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, her dad makes these snide comments about well, you're clearly not happy here. You know, it's affecting your work. You know, maybe a compelling direction could have been she was more than willing to leave and let the diner go down out of spite. And I don't know, that somehow leads to much more awful consequences than she could have anticipated. And that's, you know, that brings loss as well as making her a bit more compassionate, maybe, because, you know, she learns a lesson or something. Yeah.
It's tricky to finesse what that should look like, right? Because it's like...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's so hard to know the shape of what this should be to be effective. But I think if we start at the outcome, which is the dinner blows up when she does this thing and she scratches the lotto ticket, and her father and her brother beg her not to do it, right? But she's like, I have to shatter the illusion. Penny's diner has to end. Like this. The comment she makes, which is like, I feel like if I burned it down, I'd respawn. It's because it's ritualistic. It's imbued with this kind of symbolism for them of like the last threads of their mother, who didn't want to be there anyway, right? And so, Karen leaves the dinner and she's slugging back whiskey or a bourbon, beg your pardon. And Todd arrives and picks her up, and there's a bit of a tussle between Todd and Kevin and Todd and the dad, and they take off and they go and they, Karen's drinking. She's really drinking, and they're doing blow, and she's just getting high as shit. She's getting drunk as shit, trying to not feel this moment of, for her, like letting go of the responsibility of maintaining the illusion of this thing for her brother and dad. Like whatever happens next in this moment, it's irreversible. In some way, she has irrevocably changed whatever the like Karen will figure it out thing is irreversibly changed from here forward. Because she's scratched a lotto ticket. She said out loud, long before she got cancer, she felt like she was dying here. She said she's got the release of finally saying the thing, but she said it in defense. She said it in malicious intent, right? Like there's something about the revelation that feels sullied in some way, and this then her and Todd are getting high off on like a corner road, and then they go back to the trailer where he lives, right? And it's on fire, and it's Kevin who set fire to it, and this is what leads to the domestic violence moment where Kevin, through some kind of insight, realizes that Todd is potentially the progenitor of the issue for Karen, but fails to realize that so too is he and his father in the diner. And this leads to the scuffle where Todd starts wailing on Kevin, like beating him in a way, like not in like a Matt Murdock Daredevil kind of like beating you till you maybe die kind of way, but like in a pretty violent way. And Karen ends up shooting Todd in the shoulder, and they drive away. And you know, Kevin's last words are "watch out." There is a revelation to come about like the way this is covered up and stuff like that, but that's the way it resolves. And yeah, like I don't understand, or I don't feel Kevin's ideological opposition to Todd in a meaningful way. Like, he can clearly see that Karen and Todd selling drugs is helping to maintain the diner for his father and the financial mistakes he's making. Like, he's there when the grill arrives and she's like, we can't fucking afford this dude. Like, that's what feels so incongruous to me and so contrived, is like Kevin's opposition doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, well, his aim is to get Karen off to college because, you know, he's the hapless sort of like not very intelligent one, and he's like, well, I can at least do this for, you know, the part of my family that is ambitious and intelligent. And Todd is the one who's trying to drag her out of, you know, away from that, from potentially, you know, living I don't know what you call it. An affluent life, maybe.
Yeah. So you're saying it's sort of the Goodwill Hunting thing of like, you know, every day I show up and I hope that I turn and I don't see you. You know, I hope that I turn up and you're not there, sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is like it's like a shitty thing to that's a shitty position to put somebody in, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's burning down Todd's house is such a deranged thing to do. Like, from what we've seen of Kevin and the circumstances, it's like, god damn, like that's far worse than like anything we see Todd do, I feel. You know, other than probably beating Kevin, but you know, like
I think the story wants Karen saying, I feel like if I burned down the diner, it'd respawn in the morning. The story wants that line to justify Kevin burning down or cosmically mirror the action.
Yeah.
Which is a very kind of 80s Kingian impulse of like, the place is evil or the place is cursed in some way, right? Like, if you think about The Stand, it's like the hotel, the Overlook Hotel is like it's a battery for evil where it charges based on the people that are in there and it makes them worse and worse and worse, right? It's this sort of, and it's like Karen directs that at the diner and she's like, what's trapping us all here? And Kevin's like, well, I can free you from that trap, not by burning the diner, but by burning the trailer. But it doesn't quite come out in the mix. I feel like that's true of everything I'm saying. Like, it doesn't quite come out in the mix, but it's all there. Like, you can feel it there if the execution is right.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And maybe the worst part about all this, so Karen's driving and Todd, they have this conversation as they're driving. She looks at Todd, she looks at Kevin, and this is the moment, as she looks at Kevin, this is what causes her to hit the guardrail and flip the car, which is what kills Kevin. And the ultimate revelation that we learn the next day is that the sheriff is going to lie and say it was Kevin driving alone. And Karen's dad goes, look, like, I need you to leave. I don't want you here, Karen. And it's such a devastating end to this sequence, but it only hits if you're fully bought into what's happening. And I like, this time I'll be honest, like, this time I was in it. And I think part of it was just the length of, I think it's just the process of this show for me in some ways. The method was paying off for me, where I was probably reading more into Karen than is there. And then talking about it now, realizing she's so fully formed robs me of that enjoyment in a lot of ways. Right? Like I enjoyed it at the time, but now I'm like, yeah, I don't think this works. I think it's reaching for it, but it doesn't get there.
Yeah. I think there is some nuance to some of the characters that I like. Like, I like how Todd is... He kind of seems... He really respects Karen, and, you know, he's genuinely... he's not trying to convince her to stay or to go or anything. He's genuinely just like, well, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And there's stuff like the sheriff, how, you know, the reason he is going to lie on the report is because he says the family has suffered enough, and it's not really clear whether that's compassion for the dad or for Karen. You know, it's most likely the dad. There's little interesting bits of character that you can read into that sort of like make the, you know, the sequence this bit more believable. Yeah. Well,
so that all happens. And her dad kind of stiltingly is like, hey, I need you to leave. Like, doesn't explain why. He's like, I need you to go, Karen. Cut back to the present, and Karen's in the basement doing her thing, and Father Lantom turns up with a meal. And in his very Lantom kind of way, he pitches this idea, which is, quote, everyone is fighting a battle of their own that you can't see, but sometimes you can see. And this is sort of Lantom doing his therapy thing that he does, where he senses in Karen a need to talk to somebody. And what I love is that this is Lantom, who just lost Matt, reaching out to Karen, right? And he tells her this, knowing that she knows Matt, right? Because they've been to the church before, etc. and so forth. And he says, quote, a man that I raised as a boy came to see me recently. I had a choice of evils. He blames me for the ones I chose, for the way his life turned out. I can't argue with him. I just have to find a way to live with it. I don't know.
He's so wise.
Yeah, like he blames me for the ones I chose, for the way his life turned out. I can't argue with him, is the wisdom. I can't convince him otherwise. I have to let him believe that, because he needs to believe that right now. He's like it, and you know, his pitch ends up being like, redemption looks different for everybody, Karen. Like, if it's not okay, it's not the end. And then he goes, you know, John Lennon said that. Who are we to argue with a Beatle? I love Father Lantom, man.
He's so good.
MVP.
And it's so weird that we get this scene after this flashback, which, you know, like, again, I felt like the dialogue was really not as great as the rest of the show. And then you come back to this scene where the dialogue is fantastic, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what happened there? There's this, you know, he's trying to convince Karen to come to mass, and he says, you know, oh, a little ritual, a little ancient wisdom, not the worst thing for a troubled soul. I love that line for some reason.
Well, that's where she said, that's where she's like, how did you know? And he's like, everyone is fighting a battle of their own that you can't see, but sometimes you can't see, you know. Well, because it's not religious. Like, he's a theologian. He's not a theologian. Like, he's like, it's not about the belief. It's about like, humans are about doing the thing and the pattern and the ritual and the community.
Yeah,
like,
it's about the psychological need, but he doesn't say it in those words. You know, that's what he means. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is such a special perspective for such a critical character to have, because it's really difficult to articulate, but Lantom as a character in his presentation in the story explains and justifies self-evidently his relationship with Matt.
watching him engage with other characters, engage with Matt, doing all this, you can see why Matt has attached himself to him as that kind of father spiritual figure, right?
Right, yeah, like the good advice he gives is not just to Matt. Like it's him. It's from
who he
him
is.
And,
Yeah, right. Like it's not about Matt.
Which
is what makes the conflict at the start of the previous episode so much more compelling in retrospect, is that Matt makes it all about him, which is what Lantom is saying. He's like, I can't change his mind for him. All I can do is find a way to live with what happened. I did my best. That's what I do. You know, I help people if I can. I try to help them. I don't know if I do, right? Yeah, it's really compelling stuff here. And then we kind of get the ramp up. Okay, so we go to the car, and it's Fisk telling Dex that Wesley was killed by Karen Page, and he says, "Hey." Yeah, Dex goes, "What do you need?" Fisk is
forgot about this scene.
Yeah, and Fisk goes, "I want you to kill Karen Page." And then Dex goes, "Consider it done." And he hoofs out the car, and Lantom's giving a sermon. He's saying, you know, there's a lot of evil happening. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of pain, a lot of loss. He's mid-sermon. And we get this. It's a very, very, very brief cut of Daredevil leaving the server room, or the kind of secret room. And Karen, you know, she's looming in the doorway listening to the sermon. And what I love about this is she's in sort of a red, purple salmon sweater. Lantom is framed behind him by this flood of red lighting behind the altar. The whole sequence is flooded with red light. And Dex arrives in the Daredevil armor, right? And it's this beautifully sort of conceptualized thing. And when I say the church is important, if you'll recall, Pat, with Colin Farrell in the the Ben Affleck show, we get a sequence in the church, but he's sort of you know, Bullseye's hitting the organs and this, that, and the third thing. This is the much more classy version of that, I feel.
Yeah, I can't remember that scene for the life
I'm not
of me.
surprised. I'm not surprised. They do some flippy stuff, and there's big organ pipes that Bullseye can hit that makes Matt's ears hurt, you know?
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
This
sounds like a Tim Burton like Batman film or something.
It's in that energy. We said that at the time, for real.
Oh, did we? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like Matt and Dex mix it up, and initially it seems like the Muay Thai ropes are helping, where he gets in a few really early hits that are pretty strong, and then like Dex just goes on one. Like we haven't really seen Dex this uncaged, and maybe it's what you said before, which is he feels like he's exactly where he's supposed to be. And yeah, he just gets on one. In the end, this shakes out to Lantom sacrifices himself to protect Karen, and Matt goes apeshit. He beats the crap out of Dex. They beat the crap out of each other. And then we get the super hearing whisper stuff that I was talking about before. So, Karen, but this is before Lantom dies, obviously. Karen and Lantom both use whispering to communicate just to Matt. So Karen's like, if you can distract him, I can get them out here. And Lantom, as he's dying, whispers to Matt some words of wisdom. And my note here is like, hey, maybe genre superhero shows are fucking awesome. This whole sequence is the best shit ever. This show's great. What are we doing? So I was clearly having a good time.
He says, please forgive us, which is key and quite compelling. Like it's him as well as Dex, because he doesn't want Matt to kill him, because he wants to preserve Matt's soul.
Maybe and Maggie and Jack.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you can apply it pretty broadly. Yeah,
but that's Lantom's genius, and that's his wisdom, right? Yeah. Is that thing of like, I do what I can, and the rest is up to them, even in his last moment. Now, I assume Lantom is dead, because we had the fake out with Ellison before.
Yeah, he's dead.
Okay. Okay. Just checking. At one point, Dex uses rosary beads as bullets.
Yeah.
My note says, the devil using a symbol of penance as a weapon. Did I write this show? I did not, but that is some DC McNeil bullshit right there. And then there's some more melee, and Dex is about to kill Matt. It's hard to, we don't really know. And Karen has a big stick. For those who don't know, the big stick she has is it's a staff that during the start of mass, the priest will carry up to the altar and put in like a little holder. It has a bunch of symbolism in the church. That's not worth getting into. But like the key thing is it's part of mass.
Is it like the papal staff?
It represents a similar idea.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, and you know how Jesus his parents were farmers or whatnot, and they would walk with sticks. It's a whole. It stacks vertically in that way to this big stuff.
It sticks all the way down.
It sticks all the way down, bro. This is like level, 162 in Dark Souls. Your stick has plus 25 holy damage, plus parry, plus stamina recovery type thing, versus level 1 where it's just a stick. That's what we're talking about church-wise. And yeah, Karen bops Dex off the balcony, and by the time that she can react, he's gone, and Matt is fully unconscious. And that's the episode.
He wakes up at the end.
Does he?
Yeah, because he says, he is unconscious, and then Karen knocks him off, and then Matt says to her, we can't let him get away. And then that's when she checks again, and then he's gone. Yeah.
Oh, I did not
But
pick
then,
up on that.
and then, she's holding him.
He's not in a good way, is my point.
No, he's pretty badly hurt.
He's near to dead, I feel.
Yeah.
What a great...
And then the final shot is like her cradling him with Christ in the background, and just the whole scene is drenched in red.
Oh.
I think I used that shot in one of my articles.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
It is such a stunning visual. It looks like a the kind of mural that you would see on the church glass, right? It has that religious imagery. It has the imagery that Zack Snyder is so fond of sort of just replicating Renaissance religious paintings. Like, it's that kind of mode.
Yeah.
But it earns it, I feel.
Yeah.
I think Lantom's death in particular just kind of keys in the focus of the scene, where you go, this is everybody is at their lowest. They are out of options. This is like the ultimate worst moment in the show so far.
Yeah, for real. Can we just talk about some of the moments in the fight though?
Yeah, what you got? You got?
Well, first of all, I like anytime Dex is throwing stuff. I like when he throws the candles and Matt's shielding with the Muay Thai ropes, and it gives his hands a bit of volume, so it is like an actual shield. Matt's just as good at deflecting them as Dex is at throwing them.
Or when Matt's able to like ping something at Dex's hand before he can throw it.
Yeah.
Sick as fuck.
Because there's another dimension to the fight where he's trying to kill Karen, and Karen is like running away.
And she's trying to help the people escape as well.
Yeah. And there's a shot where he picks up a donation plate and he frisbees it, and it like it doesn't go straight to Matt. It sort of curves and donks him on the head, and that's all one shot. Like, it doesn't cut as well. There's another
shot where Matt picks up a Bible, holds it, and punches it into Dex's throat.
Oh yeah, and doesn't he punch him through the confession booth as well? Yeah,
he shoves him into it, and then but he doesn't just shove him into it. He goes down and he starts beating on him.
Yeah, so much like Catholic imagery destruction.
Such property damage.
Yeah, Oh
It's
man,
great.
I love this bit. Yeah.
I can't explain how bombastic and fun this is. I might put a clip in or something if you're watching the video, but like it really is a fun fight, but so perilous. Like it rides that line that I think the flashback wanted to but couldn't reach.
Mm-hmm.
It has the camp, but and the bombast, but it has the like dire stakes.
Yeah.
Because it feels like any blow from Dex could fully kill you, and like it probably will. Like he's a dangerous dude.
Yeah, and he's got the suit which powers him up somewhat.
That's right. Yeah, he has like +5 AC. You know.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a huge amount, but you know, just enough to make the difference between him and someone who doesn't have a suit.
Yeah, it makes the difference between him and a peasant. He's harder to hit. You know.
Yeah.
You ain't even rolling your damage dice half the time because you're missing. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, what's your knowing that you know what you know that I've forgotten of where the show goes. What is your intuition on what we should expect? Because the way that we have episodes remaining is we're covering 2 next time, which is episode 11, episode 12, and then we have our finale, and then we have your perspective season. What should we look forward to? What should we be keyed into? What are you excited for us to experience? Obviously, without spoiling anything, but like, where's your head at? Where are you at with the show? Aside from it fucking rules, which I think is like a general motif at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean that is something, motifs. There's a lot of it's hard to kind of explain what motifs are. It doesn't necessarily have to be visual. Like they're thematic motifs, they're setting motifs, they are object motifs. There's a lot of stuff that comes back and resonates with a lot of meaning in these last few episodes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
As well as that stuff about actually what we were talking about regarding the evolution of Fisk's self-image. You know, the kingpin. That evolves quite substantially in the next few episodes. Yeah, so that is a very compelling arc that you're gonna see.
Okay. Well, look, I can't express my excitement about finishing the show. Like it's difficult. These long form projects, and this is what I keep learning, is like these long form projects have a built-in end point, which is a big part of the kind of work I want to do. Is like I want to finish stuff and then do other stuff. It was a big thing that I learned from Art for Artists, which is I don't want to just be doing stuff forever. I want to have a structure and a place where it ends. And then naturally being me, I'm like, but what if there was a show that went for 8 years? But like it's really important to me because I think it gives things definition and shape, and it gives them character, having that endpoint. And I'm genuinely really excited to revisit how this thing wraps up and where we land on it. There is somewhere in a trunk of unreleased stuff, there is a video essay script half finished about the final episode of this season.
Oh.
I have no idea what's in it. But once we finish that episode, I'm going to read it and bring it to the show.
Okay.
If I can
Exciting.
find it. If I can find it.
Sorry, this is something you wrote way back when?
When the episode came out.
Right, so in 2017.
Yeah, so it would have been
Yeah.
start of the Antagonist channel, I would have thought.
I see. Yeah, okay.
And I haven't read it since. I think I know where it would be. Like I'm thinking through my head. I'm like, I think the way that I stored stuff then was Dropbox plus Google Drive, but I have to, like, if I can find it, put my hands on it, I will bring it to the table because I'm so curious to see how different my thoughts are now.
Mm.
And if they, God, I hope they are. Could you imagine?
The exact same.
I haven't changed in nearly a decade. Yeah, like I hope I've changed.
Well, then I will adjust my make fun of it meter accordingly, depending on how similar it is.
Yeah.
Because if it's very different, I'll feel fine making fun of it.
Could
but
you
if it's
imagine?
not,
I can't imagine it being similar at all. I'm so different. I watched some of those Antagonist essays, and I'm like, this stuff is good, but it's not who I am now. It's it's very concerned with formal apparatus and like, it's like deeply structuralist in a way that is just not stuff I care about now.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, does this hit the beats of this thing, or like, is this like it's just like stuff I don't care about now. Which I think is just evolving as a storyteller, evolving as like an academic, right? Which is like, honestly, I think just the lockdown 2020, reading everything Karl Marx has ever done and Felix, like I think that fundamentally changed me as a person, and everything before that, some of it really resonates, like a lot of the Bo Burnham stuff, the BoJack Horseman stuff, the emotional stuff works and clicks, but yeah, that structural stuff, I'm just like, I don't give a shit. Like,
yeah, actually, now you're kind of you're very, I think it's the right term, post-structuralist now.
mm-hmm.
You're very interested in how outside systems affect this insular thing that you're looking at.
I want to close study a text and then understand how like inputs to that change it.
Yes, exactly.
But I care about the thing and what it's doing.
I remember the way you used to talk about stuff was very like just like pure narrative theory, just like, but anything outside that box was like, well, it's just, you read every sort of narrative theory book under the sun, and then that was like all that occupied your mind, it seemed. Yeah.
Well, and that's a big thing I think that the ZeroIndent publication helped me with, right? Which is like, and you know, it was through a series of like pretty bad thing. Well, not bad. I mean, trauma is trauma, right? Like you go through bad stuff in your life all the time, but like I think going through some really life-changing stuff, like my mom's second divorce, a pretty toxic relationship that became like a bad breakup, I think that galvanized within me this desire to like do more and like make stuff that connected with people, that that didn't feel like that it. I think a lot of the stuff, the way I think about it is, before that moment in time, however you want to place your yardstick, it felt like my perspective was, this is a first year university seminar type approach. Not in a bad way, but like, does the story work? Is it doing the things that stories do? And I think now I'm interested in like, what are stories capable of in and of themselves? Like in the thing itself, in Daredevil as a show, what is it trying to do, and what am I interested in about what it's doing? I don't really give a shit if it like ticks some boxes on someone's like criteria sheet for how stories be doing stories. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Becoming much more concerned with the story itself and its objectives and priorities rather than my objectives and priorities.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. That's kind of that's always quite puzzled me about. That's, I mean, I've always viewed stories that way. I feel I've always met the story at its level,
right?
And it's really fucked with me over the years when I've listened to like other people, like video essays and stuff, and people say, "Oh, it doesn't do these list of rules," and I'm like, "What the hell? Like, what are you talking about? It's not even what it's trying to do."
But I think you have to start there because you need you have to start with the rules to understand how to transcend the rules and bend them and break them and do this, that, and the third thing. Like you have to start at that place in order to evolve, moving to the next phase, right? And I think certainly the best parts of Art for Artists were that, right? The BoJack episodes where it's a lot more about what emotionally resonates, and the Bo Burnham stuff in particular, which I'm still incredibly proud of. Like, that's our best work, I think. That episode where we recovered Make Happy, and I was like, he's retiring. And everyone in the comments was like, you're full of shit. And I was like, watch the show. Like, stop looking at Twitter. Stop looking at fucking... watch the show. Like he is telling you that's what he's doing. And that I think for me was a real turnkey moment in my kind of journey. And you know, I think everyone has that as a storyteller, and particularly as an academic. I think that always happens. But it's weird to me that like there was a time where I wrote an essay about this show that was in that other mode. Yeah. That was concerned with these other things. And like I can empathize with that guy, but I'm not him. You know?
I'm very excited.
I have to find it now. If it's not in my Dropbox or my Google Drive, I have an old laptop. It's probably in there. This was a very self-indulgent little tangent at the end. Pat, next episode we're talking about episodes 11 and 12 of Daredevil. That is Daredevil season 3. That is Daredevil episodes 37 and 38. Where can people seek you out on the internet to hear more about your opinions on stories and hear more about your thoughts on philosophy and the interaction between stories, people, and philosophy?
Well, if you want to hunt me down, you can find me on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. We have a website, amttm.com. You can find all our socials from there. If you are searching for us on Spotify or YouTube, search A Method to the Madness podcast, and we will pop up. Our logo is AMTTM. And we generally cover Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul content. So if you like those shows, if you like the Gilligan verse, check us out.
Well, I'm pretty current on my edits, so by the time this is out, we should be recording our Matrix coverage, in theory.
Oh, yeah. So
we'll be about 2 or 3 weeks behind when that comes out, but like we're almost up to date with episode releases. For those unaware, we want to cover all 4 Matrix films on A Method to the Madness. I have done what I always do, which is self-inserted myself as a producer, and I've never been more excited to talk about a series of films that are so deeply driven by subtext and symbolism than to talk about them with Mitchie, the most literal man on the planet. I've never been more excited. So I'm very, very keen to do that. It'll be out by the time you hear this. If production schedules stay as they are, go follow Method to the Madness. I promise if you like what we do, if you're this far into the show, you're already following them. But go give them a like, give them a subscribe, tell your friends about them. I'm their biggest fan.
We sure do appreciate it.
Become my biggest compatriot in being their biggest fan. If you like what we do, you guys know how it works. We are ZeroIndent. You can find everything we do at ZeroIndent.com. You can support us at patreon.com/ZeroIndent if you want to chuck in a few dollars a month. It really genuinely helps us out. I spent a lot of time editing, pre-production, research. This show is a layered beast, and any dollar helps justify more time we can spend into it. You can find our merchandise at underink.press, like this Maynard Shriek shirt I'm wearing, beautifully embroidered. I don't know how webcams work. It's on this side. Beautifully embroidered shirt. You can go find that. It's a heavyweight tee. It's going to last you 100% cotton, last you for years, designed to last 10 years. Everything that we sell over there, books, shirts, they are going to last you a lifetime if we can help it. We want to sell sustainable, reliable merchandise. We're not trying to do a quick, get a t-shirt. It's threadbare in 5 months, right? We want to sell you good quality merchandise. We get good quality suppliers. That's a big priority for us over there. Underink.press. Go find everything that we sell over there, including my books, the Maynard Shriek series, my Give Up to 3 Sherlock book, which is very similar to this, but like I don't know, like it's a lot more phenomenological, right? Like I read hundreds of Tumblr blogs and kind of worked out how a bunch of people thought there was a secret final episode of Sherlock. If you like the way we do stuff here, I guarantee you'll like that book. Otherwise, the main way to help us, we don't do any advertising outside of our network. The main way you can help us is to tell a friend, someone you like in your life, you go, hey, I think they'll enjoy this. Send a link to them. That really does help us out. We don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth. That's how we grow, and that's how we like it. We want people that know people who like it. That's our mission, is we want to develop a small community that loves the stuff we do and enjoys the stuff we do. We're not interested in becoming the biggest fucking network on the planet. That's not our priority. We appreciate the heck out of you watching or listening. We will catch you next time for Daredevil Season 3, Episode 11 and 12. Pat, that's all she wrote for this one. God, I wish the flashback was better.
I wish the flashback was better. That was my Fisk.
No, that was.
I'm committed to ending episode.
You got a good Finny D. You got a good Finny D.
Thank
I feel. Mine's terrible. Karen. No, it's hard. You have to get the body language. I feel.
Yeah. Gotta stand up really.
You gotta
straight.
really like.
Yeah.
The straightest spine in the universe. Thank you so much for watching or listening. We will catch you guys next time for our it's our penultimate Daredevil coverage, and then the thing I'm most excited about, which is Pat's Perspective Season 4. So we'll catch you guys then. Take care. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
I don't think. Probably. I forget you're blind as shit. Probably not. I don't know. I feel like we've moved past the age of the clip sunglasses. You know how you would sort of get the.
That was awful.
Yeah,
I hated that.
It's like, come on, why? Like it wasn't. It was like the worst of both worlds, because the sunglasses you had to like, both the glasses that you got and the sunglass attachment both suffered from the fact they had to be compatible. Like it's just a bad design, bad solution all around. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. These
But
are
no,
real
probably-
hard-hitting
But probably not.
questions.
Yeah. So and that's what we're doing, isn't it? All right. Let me get us kicked off. I don't know what the energy is gonna be on this one, but I'm punchy as fuck. So
Alright, that's good.
I'm feeling it. All right. My mom just texted me, and the text reads, "I'm such a peasant. I only really like Cadbury's milk chocolate." Zero context. Okay, Anne. Sure.
Okay.
But like Australians, Cadbury's isn't even that good. Like the English one's way better.
I was about to say I think I like everything but Cadbury.
Yeah, I fuck with Whittaker's, the New Zealand one.
I don't think I know that one.
That makes sense. I'll have to buy
all supermarket chocolate is too much for me. It's too much sugar. I don't like it.
This is like increasingly like an issue for me, which is like I think I'm just getting to an age where like sugar's a problem. Like I can't have too much sugar, I can't have too much caffeine. Like I think that's definitely a mid to late 20s thing.
Sugar does make me a bit depressed. Notice.
Yeah. The big sad.
Yeah.
I tell you what though, I got a bit of grey coming in the beard as well, which is
distinguished.
I'm surprised I'm not grey. My dad was grey by the time he was 30, and I'm chasing 30 pretty soon.
Oh.
So I might be like a what do they call it? Like a silver fox, Pat.
Is that for men? I thought it might have been only for women.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was just for men. I thought.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know, man. What are we, culture guys?
A method to the culture.
A method to the culture. That's the spin-off. That's a good point. Yeah, you could kind of brand anything a method to the,
Yeah, it's like game theory, and they made movie theory and
Right.
food theory.
Yeah. Except like they should have stopped before the first one.
Yeah, I can't believe they made food theory. Like that's a real thing. I was like,
That's
oh,
really reach. That's like, yeah. I just, yeah, we can't. We gotta. I'm gonna do the clap. And we're just gonna go because otherwise we'll be here for hours.